you say?
The karaoke website.
What about karaoke website?
There's a karaoke website that lets you do it.
Drink?
There's like no delay on it.
I love control though. Wait, can you just sing a little faster?
So I had to sing ahead of the song.
Yes.
That's hard.
Hey.
You're asking me for a lot.
Listen. I'm just kidding. Not yet, guys.
Is it just the instrumental? Oh no.
He's gonna come on soon. Hold on, I might skip then.
Hold on.
I'm gonna play this.
Let me visit real shit.
Oh, that starts in 4 minutes. I do gotta practice this just real quick. Some ads.
Israel's war in Gaza is faltering. The military has been able to win every battle on the ground, on the battlefield. It's been a huge tactical success for them.
It was a genocide. Just to reiterate. Friendly reminder. A horrifying reminder. Israel's doing is genocide. There's 2.2 million people being starved in a forced famine. Really go. And other countries have already pulled their ambassadors from Israel, like Canada and South Africa. And South Africa is correct. They've already brought pretty much, they're the ones that brought the first proposed investigation into Israel. So the 100+ international journalists that have been killed in the Israel military. And even now, Israel had attacked with 3 different missiles, targeted and killed 3 different vehicles of the WCK, World Central Kitchen. They're a non-profit organization that delivers food. They had coordinated and informed and told Israel military their route. Yeah. Civilians, non-profit, all they do is they make food, handing food out. So, an international coalition. It's a non-profit by famous chef Jose Andreas. Chef Andreas, he's deeply saddened, mad, and frustrated. It's a drone strike. 3 different missiles. Their vehicles are clearly marked. Their vehicles are clearly marked on the roof of the vehicle, on the sides. Giant stickers to show WCK. All they were doing was delivering food to the starving children in Palestine, in Gaza. world to understand, you know, they're unarmed civilians. What they do is they make food. They had already coordinated their routes. Israel military. 3 different missile strikes. 3 of their vehicles killed all of their workers. There's no excuse. Yeah. And that's why the WCK had to pull out all their forces. The WCK had to, the WCK needed to pull out their people. All they do is they make food, try to shelter refugees, and they pass out food. Israel's military targeted 3 of their vehicles, killed their people. That's just evil. Just disgustingly evil, man. To the whole world, they need to hear this, to understand this. Biden was so pissed. He told the Israel military and their government, their prime minister, told him, "Hey, you're gonna send a team to the White House." The Biden administration was like, "This happened like 1.5 weeks ago, or 2 weeks ago." It was like, "You need to send a team to the White House to explain to us what exactly you're going to do if you invade Rafah." Because basically, the Biden White House, the reason Israel didn't invade Rafah is because the Biden White House told them not to. And so that's the red line. It's like there's no excuse for you guys to basically invade Rafah. 99% of the people are displaced. Some 95% of all their homes are destroyed. Israel is a rogue state. Israel is a pariah state. Israel is a terrorist state. They've destroyed every single hospital. They kidnapped nurses and doctors. Those are all war crimes. Those are all collective punishment, which are also war crimes. So, you already have 60 plus Democrat members, senators and House members all signing on to I think like to create a new U.S. policy to pretty much stop the military or stop sending military weapons to Israel. So you have multiple Democratic senators. You have 60 plus legislators. I think like 40-something House members, 20-some Senate Democrats. So you just have like members of our government. A good amount of them are signing on to a policy basically saying, "Hey, look, we cannot be complicit with the country that is starving children." Senator Sanders is correct. Quote for quote, the older Senator Sanders was like telling to the world, telling to Congress, telling to U.S. News, anyone's going to listen, telling it directly to the Biden White House, like when he's saying out loud to reporters, "Hey, we as a country, U.S. cannot be complicit with another country as they starve children to death." He is correct. So the world needs to hear this. Israel. Okay, look, the Russian government is literally labeled by the U.S. government as a terrorist state, so then we can apply a whole bunch of sanctions to the government because Israel's destroyed some 2,000 plus medical facilities, like hospitals, clinics, urgent care places, med student facilities. They've destroyed 2,000 plus medical facilities. They've destroyed hundreds and hundreds of hospitals. 1/3 of Ukraine. 2,000 plus medical facilities, but hundreds of hospitals destroyed and targeted by Russia. So they're still classified as a terrorist state. And they're classified as a terrorist state because of the Russian military killing Syrian civilians and also destroying Syrian hospitals. Because the Russian military was aiding essentially Syria in their civil war, but they directly, with their military, targeted, attacked, and destroyed Syrian hospitals. So then we labeled them a terrorist state, and then they continued that same action when they destroyed 1/3 of Ukrainian hospitals. And so, because Russia did that, they can't go back to the UN and change their sanctions. It's because Russia continued to destroy hospitals in Ukraine, they're still a terrorist state. So right now, for the past 6 months plus, or five plus months, or 6 plus months, October, November, December, January, February, March, April. Yeah, it'll be 7 months this month. The 7 plus months of Israel committing the genocide. They are taking a massive military. They've already admitted to their war crimes when the Guardian News in the UK got interviews from the Israel military stating that if there was one target they need to capture in like an apartment complex, they would bomb the whole apartment complex, kill hundreds of civilians. They would kill 500 people just to like kill one target, and they don't, and you can't even confirm if they killed the one target. So because Israel's military already admitted to that to the Guardian News, those are just blatant. This is like saying they robbed the bank and they told them all the steps they did to rob the bank. So like that's Israel. They just admitted to their war crimes to the Guardian News. It's utterly frustrating because the Biden White House and NATO could stop Israel any day of the week. I could stop them in 24 hours. But now you see 7+ months of Israel saying, okay, there could be 2 or 3 targets in a building or apartment complex, and they just admitted to their war crimes. They would bomb a whole building, kill hundreds of civilians to maybe hit a target. And you can't even confirm you hit the target. So what they needed to do was use their military to try to apprehend and arrest Hamas resistant fighters, but they didn't. So what Israel's military should have done, if they wanted to fight honorably, but they're not, is they should have been trying to arrest and apprehend and subdue Hamas resistant fighters, but they did not. They admitted to the war crimes when they said, which goes back to collective punishment, which is a war crime, they would just bomb a whole building, kill everyone in the building to maybe hit one target, maybe hit 3 targets. But you can't even confirm you hit your targets, your military targets, if you're just going to kill hundreds of civilians. That's why the civilian death toll is 33,400, which the fact that the death toll is 33,400 shows that even once they killed 10,000, they did not care, and they continued their collective punishment, and then murdered another 10,000 civilians, and then they murdered another 10,000 civilians. That's how you got to 33,000 civilians dead. So already at a magnitude of like 30 times, after you've targeted civilians on purpose, they've already committed to their war crime, using their military to target and kill innocent, unarmed civilians. And so once they killed 10,000 Palestinians, it's already horrendous. You could already bring war crimes against them. But once they did it 20,000 times, they did it at an order of magnitude 20 times greater than all their crimes, like 20,000 times, whatever the fuck they were going to do. They just magnified their hate and their menace. It showed their war crimes. So as Israel then killed 20,000 civilians, they didn't give a shit. Israel killed another 10,000 civilians because they did not give a shit, which already admits to the war crimes. The fact that we're even at 33,400 civilians killed, another 65,000 wounded. We've already crossed 100,000 plus civilians that should not be wounded, injured, or dead today. And so everything has changed in the past 2 weeks because of, even though all these Palestinian civilians are dead, people have been marching and protesting for the past 7 months at the Biden White House to pretty much stop sending aid to Israel. And only these past 2 weeks, you have Bernie Sanders finally realizing, holy shit, they are starving children. There are 2.2 million people, Palestine, that's their whole country and nation, are now starving. Israel's controlling all of the exits and access points. So Israel, their war crimes, they've already attacked and destroyed food convoys. When people, the U.S. government, it's so bad, the U.S. government and the Jordanian government have to airdrop in aid every day. The U.S. government and Jordanian government, we work together and we airdrop pallets of food and water. Because Israel stops and controls all the access points into the country. Anyway, and now CNN can get news reporters in. They can kind of cover some stuff. CNN, Fox News, other broadcasters, other news organizations can get their news crews in. They can kind of film and then kind of get out. But guess what the Israeli government does? They don't even allow the Palestinians to leave. Okay? There was this MSNBC reporter and NBC reporter, right? They interviewing people on the ground in Palestine. And the sombering, your heart sinks in the depravity of the worst of humanity when you see this reporter realize he's reporting, right? He's talking back to the camera. I think it's NBC News where he's talking back to the camera. He says, the saddest thing here, not among the death and the starvation, the blood and the guts and the smell of death in the air, and the buildings all destroyed. People are cold and they're trying to find shelter. He said the saddest thing is that he's like, these people aren't allowed to leave here, and he's like, I can, and then just you can see the sad look on his face as he's just falling apart on air, like trying to cover this because he's seeing so many children and kids starving to death around him. He was telling you about a husband or a wife, or just an older woman who has kids, an older man who has kids, they're coming up to him and they're saying like, "We need medicine. We need medicine. We need blankets. We need food." And the malnutrition is at like a level 4 phase, they call it. And so you're at a catastrophic point where you're going to have mass amounts. There's 2.2 million people being forced to death, starving in a famine, a forced famine. 2.2 million people. And if you can imagine 10,000 people, can you imagine 50,000 people? Can you imagine 100,000 people? Can you imagine 500,000 people? Can you imagine 1 million? Can you imagine 2.2 million that are starving to death? Because Israel's controlling. They don't allow any convoys in. They don't allow food convoys in. There's an isolated group. Not isolated group. There's a northern Gaza region, about 202,000 people that are still starving to death, kind of isolated. The civilians all dying. Israel doesn't allow anyone to get near that group. The numerous points of Israel's war crimes, they take bulldozers and they run over civilians and kill them. More war crimes. Israel forced, how they killed 33,000 civilians, they have forced groups of men and women that are Palestinian and children into rooms. They throw grenades in the rooms and they watch them die. The Red Cross on the ground this year stated that they weren't allowed to go save people because the Israel military pointed their guns at them. Those are war crimes. Okay? The Red Cross has already told this to the UN. The Red Cross already told this to Reuters, which is a Russian news site. The Red Cross already explained this to Fox News and MSNBC and CNN and the Guardian News. The Red Cross already stated a few months ago they were on the ground and the Israeli soldiers pushed women and men into rooms and then they threw grenades into the rooms and then watched them die. And the Israeli military took their guns, pointed at the Red Cross, their volunteer medics, pointed the guns at them and told them not to save them. Those are war crimes. That's how you get to 33,000 civilian deaths. They take bulldozers and they run over Palestinians, crush them to death. And the reason they do it with bulldozers is they try to bury their war crimes. So they took these bulldozers, they have civilians, and they run them over. And they crush them to death. And they would take the more war crimes, egregious, gross, grotesque, evil shit. Israel military use bulldozers and crush Palestinian civilians. And they would use the bulldozer to try to cover and hide their crimes. There's already tens of thousands of Palestinians held in concentration camps inside Israeli military bases. Reports have already come out this month, not even 2 weeks ago, that one doctor who was abducted from his hospital, Palestinian doctor abducted from the hospital, was in a military concentration camp of other Palestinian innocent civilians. More war crimes when you abduct a doctor that was of another nation, of peoples, to stop him from healing people. As a war crime. Use your military to abduct nurses and doctors that are Palestinian to stop them from healing other people is war crime. And this doctor who lived through the torture of being in this concentration camp in a military base in Israel, he sees other civilians, they're handcuffed, metal handcuffs and zip ties behind their back. And they would tight them so tight that it would cut the circulation off to the hands of the peoples. And then so the military the Israeli military, with their continued war crimes, had a routine effect where their staff were just cutting off people's hands. Teenagers, Palestinian children, having their hands cut off because they're in a concentration camp on Israeli military base. And the only reason we got that information out is because one of the Palestinian doctors who lived through the torture and was in one of these concentration camps finally got out. The Israeli military, with their continued war crimes, rape children in their concentration camps on the military bases. The Israeli military rapes Palestinian children inside their prisons inside Israel. The Israeli military has abducted arbitrarily against people's will for no crimes whatsoever. They're just abducting Palestinian children and holding them in prisons in Israel. Those are concentration camps. Okay, when you have a specific building, right, in Israel, and that building is only to house the continued illegal activity of you abducting Palestinian children, that's not a prison. That's a concentration camp. That's just continued evil. They would torture Palestinian civilians. You need to understand there's 2.2 million people, and there's really only 14 to 17,000 Hamas resistance fighters. There's really only like less than 20,000. The lie from the intel that Israel propaganda is saying there's 40,000 of them. There's not. There's like anywhere between 14 to 17,000, less than 20,000 Hamas resistance fighters, up to 2.2 million people. But what Israel would do is they would abduct tens of thousands of civilians, put them through filtration camps, torture them, and then put them into another prison or POW. But they're not prisoners of war. They didn't commit any crime. They're civilians. They would go through a filtration camp, another concentration camp, torture them for weeks, and then transfer them to another prison camp, aka a POW, but aka this is not a war, it's a genocide. And so the men and women that survived that, and the teenagers that have survived those horrible concentration camps for like 4 months of being tortured, the Israeli military realizes they're just pushing people in. Their facilities can only hold so much. Okay, so they would filter people in, torture them for 3 weeks or 4 months or 3 months, and their prison system, their concentration camps in Israel could only do so much, and they would let them go. They'd free them to bring in more people that they could torture for 3 or 4 months to try to extract intel from the population. Those are all continued war crimes. Okay, and so you would go through 3 or 4 months of torture in an Israeli concentration camp. You would get out, and the most horrendous thing, a dude, older gentleman, probably in his 50s, he saw his brother, Israeli military, him and his brother both tortured. They had nothing to do with Hamas. They're just Palestinian civilians. Both of his brothers tortured. Eventually, his brother was in front of him on his knees, handcuffs behind his back, as Israel military pulled out a pistol, took it to his brother's head, and just fired it. Executed him, shot him in the head. And he survived to tell the tale of his brother being shot in the head right in front of him. And that same person talks about the other people that were around him that survived that have burn marks all over their bodies. What the Israeli military is doing is they would take metal rods and they would heat them up, and they would like cattle iron press metal rods onto Palestinian teenagers, men and women, to try to try to force intel out of them. But these people don't know anything. There's 2.2 million people. There's only less than 17,000 Hamas resistance fighters. These 2.2 million people don't know anything. They've just been under oppression for 70 years. Israel is a European imperialist colony. Man. And they're committing evil, disgusting, atrocious acts. They would even take electrical rods and stab it into Palestinians. So that Israel, military, concentration camps, filtration camps, they would take civilians and they would electrocute them. They would put attack dogs on them. The Israeli military would rape the women to try to gang rape the women, try to get intel out of them. They would use attack dogs and have attack dogs attack Palestinian children, teenagers, people in their 20s or 30s, didn't matter. They would, like I said, they would heat up metal iron rods and stab, stick, and poke and prong the anus or the leg or the back of Palestinians. Of the past 7+ months, the Israeli military has the headshot sniper wounds of Palestinian children are coming from Israel snipers. So Israel's military has already shown grotesque levels of evil for the past 7+ months, as the children that had arrived at the hospitals in Palestine before they were all destroyed were sniper rounds to the head, to the neck of Palestinian children, or to the chest, like a Palestinian child. That's why the death toll is at 33,000 plus. And then the only reason, check this out, even after 7+ months, right? The only reason the past 2 weeks has everything changed is because an American was murdered by Israel, and like 2 or 3 UK people were murdered by Israel, mainly because of those white lives that died in service to people of color, Palestinians. Did the rest of the world and the Biden administration, everything change? The past 2 weeks, because one American, this white man, died. Rest his soul. He's a saint. He leaves behind a wife and like 1 kid. Former veteran was volunteering his time, a part of the WCK, World Central Kitchen, with Jose Andres, Chef Andres, his organization to feed starving children in Gaza. Heroism. And I imagine he thought not once in a million years would Israeli military fired missiles onto their clearly marked vehicle and killed them. Israel's already murdered some 137 plus international journalists. 130 plus international journalists, but I believe the number is already at 134 to 137 international journalists murdered by Israel. That number continues to rise. Over anywhere between 300 to 500 United Nations workers have been killed or injured. I believe killed is the number. I believe a couple hundred more have been injured. There's something like 300 to 500 United Nations workers, volunteers on the ground, doing everything from hospice care to therapy, to finance, to kind of legal work, to paperwork. Just people on the ground trying to annotate, document everything, murdered by Israel's military. The past but the past 2 weeks changed because one American white life died, three other British white people died in those missile strikes. And so Biden told Israel, they need to change how they're attacking, need to change how they're fighting. And on top of that, the Biden White House, the past 2 weeks, went from the Senate, the Security Advisor, the State Secretary, from the VP, Harris, they've all said, Israel, if you do not change, we're going to change our U.S. policy towards your country. And so, and the red line is, do not invade Rafah. So now what you see, because essentially the U.S. government postured that way, we can dictate and control Israel every step of the way. we could regime change their country. We could apprehend all their leadership. We could stop their military and shut them down in 24 hours. Like if I was the U.S. president of the United States, I would have already severed ties with Israel. Clear gross violations, human rights violations, war crimes, all that. Our intel's the best. Stratcom can determine where every single projectile was fired from. So the U.S. military alone can present the most hard evidence to the ICJ and present to the world, hey, look, Israel's fired all these shots and missiles at convoys, at civilians. We can tell you the intent, the skirting factors of whether or not this was a viable shot or not. And so the U.S. military, like if I was U.S. president, we would have already severed ties with Israel, gathered a NATO contingency force, surrounded Israel, tell leadership to turn themselves in, and your military stand down. NATO and the U.S. If I was U.S. president, we should have already cut the alliance, surrounded Israel, and stopped them within 24 hours. It would take about less than 5 days, but overall, you could probably do it in 48 hours, 24 hours. U.S. military and NATO alone, we have the power to completely shut down all of Israel, turn off all their electronics, hit them with EMP missiles, wipe out all their communication electronic systems, use our own weaponized military satellites to swarm and turn off all their network systems, pretty much make them go ghost or shutting the lights off. We can systematically use all of our quantum computers to shut down any kind of communication network inside Israel. And their military wouldn't stand a chance because our missiles are stealth undetected. So, it's like the U.S. plus NATO to stop Israel take us 48 hours. Our stealth missiles come flying in and wipe out all their naval vessels, all their military bases, cut off all their communication lines, supply lines. Our special forces, NATO plus U.S. special forces can apprehend Netanyahu no matter where he goes. So it's like none of this should have happened, should be happening. And just the past 2 weeks, the moment Biden talks about changing U.S. policy towards Israel decides to open up three entry points. Open up 3 entry points to allow aid in. And you know what Israel did? The past 2 weeks, they pulled back all their military forces. So what the world needs to understand, the reason Israel is retreating all their military out of Palestine back to their kind of nation is because Biden, U.S. President Biden, Kamala Harris, Secretary Advisor, Secretary of State, Security Advisor, all of them, advisor to the President on security, all of them, basically said, if you don't change, we're going to change our policy towards Israel. That's why, the past 2 weeks, they have pulled back all their military. and a side note, it's not a war; it's a genocide. You know, because Canada has already pulled their ambassadors out of Israel as a sign of Canada. Basically, their leadership has seen all the intelligence, right? And they're like, "Oh shit, yeah, Israel's committed all these war crimes," and now they're pulling their ambassadors. South Africa already pulled their ambassadors away from Israel and has referred Israel for war crimes to the ICJ, and the ICJ is like, "Okay, we're going to do our investigation." Even during a 2-week ceasefire, Israel destroyed the last hospital. That was already in violation of the UN Security Agreement. You know, it was a 14-0 vote in the UN Security Agreement to have a 2-week ceasefire. And even in that 2-week ceasefire, Israel destroyed the last hospital in Gaza, violating the security agreement from the UN, from the 14 most powerful nuclear countries in the world. The US abstained from the vote. Usually it's 15-0. It's 15 people in the Security Council. The U.S. abstained from the vote. It went 14-0. Every other nuclear power was like, "Hey, Israel, 14 days, stop killing each other." The whole world, every single nuclear power was like, "Do this." And then Israel, even in that 14 days, destroyed and destroyed the last hospital in Gaza, and then kidnapped, killed 300 some innocent civilians, 308 innocent civilians, kidnapped a whole bunch of doctors and nurses, the last of them, and literally just more heinous, evil shit from Israel. So yeah, you're definitely seeing some changes. And then when people, if you want to look at the bigger, some more stupid bullshit, is Netanyahu realizing that the vast majority of Israelis are now protesting against him in Israel. That want him to step down. They want to call for a new vote. They don't trust him or his job because he has failed to get back his hostages. And Israeli hostages, you know, but if you think about it from a Hamas resistance standpoint, there is no reason for them to hand over Israel hostages, because Israel's continued to attack convoys, kill civilians, kill the people they're fighting for, and bomb whole buildings and destroy all the hospitals. Those are war crimes. So why would the Hamas resistance fighters hand over Israel hostages when Israel has destroyed all the hospitals and targeted and killed Palestinian children? You see what I'm saying? So for Israel, they realized they lost the narrative. I would say for 3 months into their war, it was the start of their genocide, and they realized that they would just keep killing civilians, Palestinian civilians, and they continued their genocide about 3 or 4 months in, and they realized that was the turning point where people started to find out. At first, the whole world, back in October 2023, just 7 months ago, the whole world was in favor of Israel. The vast majority of people saw, okay, Hamas attacked Israel. Okay, well, Israel has a right to defend itself. And they did for a little bit. But they just started bombing and killing innocent civilians to the tune of 33,000 civilians. So then once Israel lost the narrative, they killed 33,000 plus civilians, wounded another 65,000. Once they lost the narrative, the majority of Israelis are now protesting against their own government, like, "Hey, look, this is no way to bring back our hostages if you're just going to keep killing mass amounts of civilians." The U.S. government, actually the U.S. people and the U.S. government on October 2023 was in favor of Israel. Like, okay, our ally was under attack. They had the right to defend themselves. But then as those months went on, it flips, because all of a sudden everyone's like, "Bro, you guys are just indiscriminately bombing and killing a whole bunch of civilians. And now you're starving 2.2 million people." So 7 months in, the U.S. government and its people, the American people, see Israel and all of their war crimes, all of the gross human neglect, the inhumane treatment, the continued just evil shit they're doing, and it flips. It goes from, "Hey, you were attacked, okay, we have your back," to, "Holy shit." Even when Senator Bernie Sanders is like, "We can't be complicit with a country that's starving children," he's saying you cut the alliance. That's the politic talk speak. Okay? But Senator Sanders is saying we can't be complicit in a country that starves children to death. The political talk in between those lines is saying, you know, we can't be allies with Israel. You got to cut ties with them. Okay? And when Biden, Kamala Harris, President Biden, when he's saying, "You don't change, we're going to change our U.S. policy towards Israel," you know what he's saying? In between the lines, read the words. He's saying, we're going to cut the alliance with Israel. Okay? It goes from same biggest thing too. Jewish American community on October was with Israel, and then 7+ months later, some 63% of the Jewish community is against Israel because they see 7+ months of war crimes of Israel military killing mothers, Israel military killing grandmothers, Israel military killing children. Of the 33,400 plus people that are now dead that are murdered by Israel, 70% of them are children. Yeah. Even Israel's own government people, how they talk in the news is evidence of their war crimes. When Israel, that's their admission to their war crimes. Israel's military leadership, Israel government officials, over the past 7+ months, when they talk about blank, 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 when they say, we're treating them and torturing them like animals, when Israel's government officials are saying that, quote unquote, they've already admitted to the admission of war crimes, gross human rights violations. The ICJ, Canada, South Africa can all bring all that same evidence to the UN. This is what Israel did. Israel's now, past 2 weeks, Israel's now pulled other forces. They've retreated their forces out of Gaza because basically President Biden already said what he said. Israel does not change. We're going to change our U.S. policy towards Israel. And then the following few days later, like 3 days later, Senator Sanders is saying we cannot be complicit in a country that is starving children to death. Then the past 2 weeks, you then see Israel Israel 5 days ago, Israel pulls all troops but one brigade out of southern Gaza. But it's not just southern Gaza, like out of Gaza. So 4 days ago, yeah, Israel's military withdraws troops from southern Gaza. It's not just southern Gaza. It's because of Gaza, right? Think of the north as a longer stretch, and southern Gaza kind of flattens out. In southern Gaza is the last city, Rafah. In the southern city of Gaza, Rafah city is there. So when Israel's pulling all their troops out of southern Gaza, they're essentially withdrawing all their troops. Because also the Biden White House told Netanyahu and his government people, do not invade Rafah. And Kamala Harris said it would be a big mistake if you invaded Rafah, which is other more political talk, like y'all better not motherfuckers invade Rafah. So they also pull their forces out. And then what you see from a fucked up political standpoint, as plain as day, White House says something, Israel finally responds. Because we're going to what? Stop sending military weapons and supplies to Israel, and we're probably going to cut the alliance. And so then Israel sees all these, right, in the news, and then they retreat and pull their forces out. So everything the Biden White House does, hell, anything the Biden administration, U.S. President, or the White House does, the whole world has to react. We're the number one most powerful nation in the world. The number one most powerful nation in the world. So anytime the president says or does something, you can shift. We can push and pull countries in any direction we want. Okay. But yeah, if I was U.S. president, I would have already cut the alliance. This administration has hinted at it. Other members of Congress have hinted at it. But I would have already cut the alliance, had a contingency NATO strike force ready to go, and could stop Israel in 48 hours. And then what Israel did is they, because of all this, they need their Netanyahu, to save his own behind, is going to throw away tons of lives to keep a perpetual war going. So the past 2 weeks, Israel had attacked Syrian consulate. And so Israel's strike on Iran's consulate in Syria, there's no such thing as a legitimate attack. This is BBC News.
This is why.
So this happened, I guess it happened on April 1st, right? 2 weeks ago. Yeah. 2 weeks ago, April 1st, Israel. Let's go through this ad.
On Amazon.
Everything you see now, most of it is in reaction to about 3 days of intel, 5 days of intel, or 10 to 14 days of kind of a news cycle. So understand, once something happens, right, you'll see the response over 3 days, 5 days, 7 days, 10 days, 14 days, because everything kind of slow rolls out when you're moving resources. So for the past 2 weeks, understand that the order to pull was already U.S. decision behind doors, like probably 20 days ago. So 20 days ago was like already telling Israel, hey, this is what we're going to do. And then now, right, once Israel starts retreating all their forces, right, they probably already started doing that 5 to 10 days ago. And then once the news come out, 3 days or 5 days tops, the news kind of solidifies that this is happening. And that's how you see the news. So Israel was probably already pulling out their forces 10 days ago because the U.S. already made a decision 20 days ago, and that information slowly leaks out to the public 10 days later. Once the public sees it, they're thinking, okay, Israel's now moving their forces over 3 days. Reporters can synchronize. Okay, as we see Israel military is retreating back. 5 days out, okay, we continue to see Israel military, fall back, and then the news will kind of hit home to the public, usually 10 days out. It's an event that's already happened 8 days prior. So the news you see now has already been under works. These events have already occurred. Usually sometimes 5 to 10 days out. And so what, around the time that you see Israel attacking the Iranian consulate in Syria, this is because today's the 13th, the U.S. already made a decision, could have been 15, 17, 20 days ago, of what they were going to do. And now Israel's reacting to that decision from the White House 20 days ago. It could be 3 weeks ago. And so you have Israel, Netanyahu trying to save his ass by throwing away lives, disregarding lives around him to die for him. Netanyahu, the Israel administrator, he ordered a strike to kill Iranian government officials. I think some were Iranian military members, but some were just Iranian government officials standing next to or with Iranian military officials. They're at the consulate next to their embassy in Syria. Okay. They fired missile strikes and then destroyed the consulate building next to the embassy in Syria, and then killed Iranian people. So Iranian people are dead. These are government officials, military members. Iran has a right to defend themselves. There was no need to fire missiles into Syria. And so it all just, as plain as day, it looks like Israel is trying to provoke Iran to fight them so that Israel can then draw in the U.S. into a prolonged war in the region. No American soldiers. Well, one, we should stop giving Israel military weapons. We should stop giving Israel zero U.S. taxpayer money because they're a terrorist state. They should have sanctions already on them. The sanctions would kick out all of the Israel military members and their family members from the United States. The sanctions would bar any of their traveling, and we could refer them to Interpol and or to other NATO allies to also sanction and restrict Israel leadership and their family members. That's what we should be doing. Every single government official and their family members of Israel, we can sanction them. We can block and bar all of their transactions and finances in any kind of NATO allied country or any other allied country, which is a wide berth. The U.S. government has a lot of allies. So when we want to find people or track them or stop them, we can, especially when their hands are now covered in blood from the genocide they've committed. like I said, once you've killed 10,000 civilians, they knew what they're doing was evil. Once Israel has killed 20,000 civilians, they knew what they're doing was evil. Once Israel has killed 33,000 civilians, they knew what they were doing. They knew what they were doing is evil, and they've wounded some 65,000 plus civilians, but they knew what they're doing is evil. Once they've injured, killed, and maimed 100,000 innocent people. Israel knows what they're doing. It's genocide. It is a military killing unarmed people. Even the past 7+ months, Israeli snipers have murdered and killed. They attacked a Catholic parish or something like that. It's like a Catholic facility. There's like nuns and like other Catholic volunteers. They killed a Catholic nun, lady in all black and all that, right? Killed her and wounded like a few other women and like a child. It was an Israeli sniper. The Pope, in the past 7.5 months, the Pope had to send a letter telling Israel, hey, have your military stop killing and attacking our Catholic volunteers. The reports have already been out for the past 7.5 months. Israel's military has killed their own civilians. Hostages. There were 3 of them that were naked. They had a white cloth tied around their left arm and had their hands up. The 3 Israeli hostages had appeared, right? They were walking towards Israel military. Israel military fired upon their own people and murdered 3 of their own Israeli people. They were naked. They had a white cloth tied around their left arm. Their hands were up. Because, check this out, Israel's military was so used to just murdering and killing innocent Palestinians. They continued that trend for weeks, right? Months, and then killed their own people. Okay? Understand that Israel for weeks and months were raping Palestinian children, raping Palestinian women, raping the men too, and then murdering them and killing them. The Israeli military members would pose with different lingerie garments to show how many women they've raped. The Israeli military would pose with different lingerie garments of the number of women they've raped. And some of the clothes aren't women. Some of the clothes are teenage girls' size of Palestinian children that they raped. Israel's military, I'll never get this out of my mind, they killed this man, it was a father, it was a bicycle, he had 2 bags of food, he's in civilian clothes, he's on the ground, there are bullet holes in the wall, bullet holes all around him, bullet holes in his chest and head, blood pooled everywhere, and it was brand new, because it's brand new? When the blood is a dark color. Oh, my bad. The blood is red and kind of maroon, but it's always whenever you see like a bright red, it's like a just happened. You see the marooning red color, it's mixing with the dirt and the ground, but it is still how can I describe it? It is still fresh oxygen in the blood, because so it's just like there's a little girl on a cell phone call in a medic van, non-profit medical unit, non-profit organization with just medics. 2 medics were dead, and the whole family member of 5 were killed. The grandmother, the mother, the father, the brother and sister, they're all killed. It's just a little girl, probably like 7 years old, on a cell phone call in a vehicle crying, asking for help. The 2 medics in the driver's seats are shot dead, killed civilians. Her whole family around her is shot dead and murdered by Israel. And she's a 7-year-old, she's on a cell phone crying, asking for help. I'll never forget that. Israel continued to use chemical weapons on civilians. Everything else is more egregious. The concentration camps are egregious. The cutting off of civilian hands, Palestinians. Israeli military doctors cutting up the hands, egregious. Israel military raping women and raping children, egregious. Israel bombing hospitals, egregious. And then more war crimes, destruction of all their hospitals and mosques, egregious. Israel has destroyed temples that were older than Israel itself. Israel as a country has only been around for 70-something years. This has been 70 years of oppression. Israel has destroyed temples that have been around for like hundreds of years. destroyed these temples, mosques. Most, all across the world, check this out, all across the world, any kind of a temple or mosque is usually like, it's a no-go to destroy. Okay? It's not just the Geneva Convention, it's just like right, like, you have to be like a scummy scumbag. Like, you have to be like the worst of humanity to like destroy like a Christian temple or a Catholic church or a mosque. Like, we already, just as humans to humans, like, do not destroy like a holy site. It's just a building, okay? But it's still just like a holy site where people go to pray, whatever the religion or denomination is. It's all across the world, regardless if you're like the biggest gangster or just a stupid motherfucker. You don't ever like attack like a church or a mosque or temple holy site. It shouldn't fit right with your soul. Israel has destroyed mosques that had been around for hundreds of years, longer than Israel's been around. Gone, destroyed. You know, just more egregious, evil, more war crimes, more human rights violations. Israel abducting and stealing doctors and nurses away from the hospitals, and then they would, those are also war crimes, and they would bomb, destroy the hospitals, continue war crimes. So yeah, is the Biden administration, is President Biden moving too slow? He is. He's moving too slow. Like I said, if I'm U.S. president, Israel would have already been stopped. And I have a saying now. I just say it's like, stop Israel, save Palestine. You just gotta stop Israel, you gotta save Palestine. You gotta stop Israel, you gotta save Palestine. With Israel attacking the 3 food aid workers and killing their 3 different vehicles over a large stretch, it's like 1.8 kilometers, like distance. 3 different vehicles over 1,000 like 1.8 kilometers apart. Other nonprofits and other food organizations the past 2 weeks had to pull their forces out. It's too dangerous, too risky for them to keep their people trying to feed the starving people in Palestine, because now they're targets from Israel's military. So there's the famine becomes worse. And I understand that they'll kind of pull back and they'll kind of push forward. So now the food aid workers, I hope, have the courage, but I don't put it against them, to not want to go back in, because especially when Israel's military has used drones to systematically target and kill 3 different vehicles and kill an American and kill British people. You know, once the fact that it's already occurred in the past 2 weeks, the fact that Israel is so comfortable killing their own people, like the hostages that have already been killed by Israel. Israel's military forces have already killed other Israeli civilians. Israel's military continues to kill. It's a genocide, genocidal acts, genocidal evil acts. Just kill civilian Palestinians. The Israeli military was so used to killing and getting away with evil that that's why they killed their own civilians. And now that they've killed 1 American and like 3 British people, only then, check this out, only then did Israel pull back their forces. Because Israel, the moment they killed 1 American man, he was a veteran military guy. He's now widowed. He now leaves behind his wife and his child. Because Israel realized, oh shit, we had been killing 130 something plus international journalists. They killed them. They killed some 300 to 500 UN workers have been killed. United Nations workers. They've killed 33,000 plus civilians. Now there's 65,000 plus wounded. They've done all this evil shit, right? It wasn't until they killed 1 American did they pull back all their military forces, realizing y'all just poked the bear. Y'all just pissed off all of the United States. Y'all motherfuckers just pissed off the Biden administration. Y'all motherfuckers just pissed off the whole western half of the world because you killed 3 British people and 1 American. You see the systemic racism for Europe. You see the systemic racism for America. It is now because 33,000 people of color died. You know what the Biden White House looks like? It's like he didn't give a shit if 30. You know what Joe Biden looks like, and even what Europe looks like. It's like they didn't give a shit about the 33,000 people of color dying. But holy shit, because 3 British people and 1 American died, now y'all motherfuckers are pissed. That's systemic racism. That's putting the lives of 4 white people above 33,000 people of color, of Arabic descent. Check this out. It was like there was an Air Force member who lit himself on fire outside like Washington D.C. in protest of U.S. support of Israel, because he's basically, his death and his protest was basically like Israel's committing war crimes. This active duty U.S. intel, and it's a very key position, intel member, this Air Force intel guy. He lit himself on fire in protest. He had his whole message and everything. His key part of his message was like, basically goes back to what I'm saying. You stop Israel, free Palestine. Because of, he can no longer, he's also going to kill himself, unalive himself in protest, because he saw the intel that basically shows the U.S. is, helping Israel commit a genocide. I need people to understand, when you have a dude in his 20s, right? He's an Air Force intel officer. He already explained his whole thing, but it goes back to the key point: stop Israel, save Palestine. But it's an intel officer, with behind the scenes understanding what's happening. He unallied himself in protest basically because he's already seen the United States complicity in Israel's genocide. Like, damn. That's why his death is so important. And you're seeing the systemic racism. You see the racism in America, because now the Biden administration is like a white American man who's a veteran guy who now leaves behind a wife and kids is killed because Israel's military killed him. He was a food aid worker too. That'll really ring home to Biden, because he's already lost his son, who was a military member. So for Biden, he sees another white American, all-American guy, probably sees the death of that other white American veteran who was killed by Israel, like he sees his own son's death. Another white American guy who's younger, but he looks at him as like another son from another mother. That probably also pissed off fucking Biden. Guarantee you it pulled his heartstrings. Because the current down low, the current behind the scenes intel is that Biden hates Netanyahu. Behind closed White House doors, Biden is saying, quote, "I fucking hate Netanyahu," quote unquote. So that's why we're in an inflection point the past 2 weeks. Israel's now pulled their forces out of southern Gaza, but they're essentially pulling their forces out of Gaza because of 1 American veteran who's killed. And Israel's government realizes they just pissed off Biden and pissed off all of Europe when they killed 3 British people, and pissed off all of America when you kill an all-American guy like that. Let's take a time to look at the American Food Aid volunteer killed by Israel. It's April 2nd. So see how the news comes out like the day later. WCK has their, probably did a whole, World Central Kitchen is devastated to confirm 7 members of our team have been killed in an IDF strike in Gaza. The WCK team was traveling in a D-conflict zone in 2 armored cars branded with the WCK logo and a soft-skin vehicle. Despite coordinated movements with the IDF, Convoy was hit as it was leaving the Deir al-Balah warehouse, where the team had unloaded more than 100 tons of humanitarian food aid brought to Gaza on a maritime route. This is not only an attack against the WCK, this is an attack on humanitarian organizations showing up in the most dire of situations where food is being used as a weapon of war. This is unforgivable, said World Central Kitchen CEO Aaron Gore. 7 killed are from Australia, Poland, United Kingdom, a dual citizen of US and Canada. That's an American. An American who has dual citizenship with Canada, but it's an American. I mean, I understand that they're dual citizens with Canada, but this is an all-American guy, right? Who had a dual citizenship with Canada, but all-American guy, and Palestinians. I'm heartbroken and appalled that we, the world's central kitchen in the world, lost beautiful lives today because of a targeted attack by the idea. The love they had for feeding people, the determination they embodied to show that humanity rises above all, and the impact they made. Countless lives will forever be remembered and cherished. IDF says it is carrying out an in-depth examination of the highest levels to understand the circumstances of destructions. World Central Kitchen is pausing our operation immediately in the region. We'll be making decisions about the future of our work soon. This all came out weeks ago, of course. Yeah, Jacob Flickinger, WC Really Team, age 33. CFSC Mazad Abtana, Release Team 25 Palestine. Zavani Zombie Frankham, WCK Relief Lead from Australia. An Australian 43-year-old Laswali Frankham was one of their best people. Brilliant woman whose lives helped save hundreds of thousands of people all across the world through her efforts. An Australian, it was a woman who was a leader. Avi missed. Damien Sobol, WCK Relief Team 5 from Poland. I imagine the people of Poland are mourning the loss. Another hero died at the hands of Israel. Jacob Flickinger. USA and Canada, the US American dual national citizenship with Canada. He's behind military veteran, leaves wife and child. A hero. Volunteering his time to feed starving children in Gaza. Died because Israel killed him. John Chapman, security team member for the vehicle, 37 years old from the United Kingdom. James Jim Henderson, WCK security team member, 33 years old from the UK. And then you have James Kirby, WCK security team member, age 47 UK. These are also three, I guarantee you probably three, British people, United Kingdom people, UK people that are mourning the loss of three good men. Three good men. Had magnanimous hearts. I bet some of them are probably veterans. I bet. I can already tell James Kirby. He's a veteran. There's Henderson, there's Chapman. Probably of the Royal Army. The UK has lost good men with good hearts. Israel attacked and killed Iranians in Syria to try to prolong the war and, like I said, pull the U.S. into another war in the Middle East for their failures and mistakes, because Israel's continuing their genocide. The moment I'll explain this to people as simply and as plain as I can. The moment Israel's genocide stops, the moment their fake war stops, then you can now allow, international investigators to come in and really look at all the crime. Okay? And that's why when you see this war, you see this act of genocide that Israel's committing, the moment it is stopped, the moment this is all over, right? The moment it stops, all is over, you're going to have international investigators come swarming in from different countries to look at all the crimes that Israel's committed. And once all those crimes come out, we've already seen real-time war crimes, okay? That's why Canada pulled their ambassadors out. That's why South Africa pulled their ambassadors out and referred Israel for war crimes to the ICJ. And for the Hague, of course. For Israel, Netanyahu, he'll throw away lives. Just explain it as simple as he's throwing away lives to keep prolonging a war, try to poke and prong and bait and pull Iran into a war with Israel. He's forcing it. Israel wants Iran to defend themselves. Israel wants Iran to attack them. So they went forward and fired missiles from Israeli military, fired missiles and killed Syrians in the Syrian consulate in their embassy in Syria, in their capital. So, and even right now for Syria, I think Syria's going through their own civil war.
Media says a suspected Israeli strike has destroyed an Iranian embassy building in the Syrian capital Damascus, with the senior commander in the powerful Iranian Revolutionary Guard among those killed. Israel hasn't commented on the incident. These are the latest pictures we have of the scene. Iranian state television is reporting the senior commander is Reza Zahedi, who led the Palestinian division of the Revolutionary Guard Quds Force. The UK-based War Monitor, the Syrian Observatory for Human Rights, says at least 8 people have died, but as yet there's no official confirmation of the figures. Iran's ambassador and his family are reportedly unarmed. Let's get the latest from our correspondent in Jerusalem, that's Hugo Bachega. Hugo, what more are you hearing about this incident?
Yeah, Anita, so this is a very significant escalation. So again, as you said, Iranian and Syrian state media saying that an Israeli airstrike
the 1st of April
targeted the Iranian consulate in the Syrian capital Damascus. And now reports suggest that the senior commander of the powerful Iranian Revolutionary Guards, Mohammad Reza Zahedi, was killed. So very significant, a high-profile member of Iran's Revolutionary Guards reportedly killed. So we're hearing now these accusations. We haven't had any kind of reaction from Israeli authorities. We know that over the last few years, Israel has carried out attacks targeting positions and also members of Iran's Revolutionary Guards, but it's very rare for the Israeli authorities to acknowledge involvement in those assassinations. So again, very significant development. We've seen that these types of assassinations have been happening frequently.
That part from the BBC was like the PR propaganda for Israel.
But there's no doubt about
yeah.
In the Middle East, where American diplomats and their
latest news 20 hours ago, the United States have restricted travel for its embassy personnel in Israel amid fears of an attack by Iran. U.S. embassy staff have been told not to travel outside Greater Jerusalem. Out of an abundance of caution, Iran is about to retaliate, blaming Israel for its strike on its consulate in Syria 11 days ago, killing 13 people. Israel is not yet claimed responsibility for the consulate attack, but it's widely considered to have been behind it. The U.S. military, like I said, was TRACON. We could track every single flying object in the sky. So it's like NATO can confirm it, U.S. military can confirm it. They don't. Okay, what do they do? What do they do?
families in Israel have been told not to travel outside of Tel Aviv, Jerusalem and Beersheba. The US Embassy said it had made the order out of an abundance of caution due to fears about a possible attack by Iran. Earlier, Israel's Defense Minister Yoav Gallant has told his US counterpart that Israel would respond appropriately if it was directly attacked by Iran. Washington continues to try to dissuade Iran from launching a retaliatory strike following the attack on its consulate in Syria last week. Well, for more on that, let's speak to our correspondent in Jerusalem.
Do I need to... This person talking all the time? Oh, my bad. The BBC PR person for Israel. All right.
File 100% free with TurboTax Free Edition. Roughly 37% of taxpayers qualify. Form 1040 and limited credits only. See how at turbotax.com. That's me!
Joining me now is NBC's Hala Garani. She is in Tel Aviv for us again. Mark Polymeropoulos, he spent years as a CIA officer and chief of operations and the chief of operations in Europe and Eurasia. And Colin Clark, director of research at the Sufan Group. Sorry, Colin, I botched up a couple of the titles there, but we've got good questions, no less. I appreciate our experts being here. Hala, let me get to you. What else are we learning specifically from the Netanyahu government about how they are preparing for a possible attack, even a likely attack, as some officials describe it?
Right. Well, Yoav Gallant, the Minister of Defense, hosted the CENTCOM commander, Kurilla. They had this photo op at an air base in Israel, essentially standing side by side, sending the message that the U.S. is ready to support its ally in the Middle East, Israel, against any attack. And as many of our viewers know, this is coming just about 11, 12 days after an attack widely attributed to Israel on an Iranian consular building killed 2 senior commanders, 5 other senior Iranian officials. This happened it has to be said, in a civilian area in the Syrian capital, and you're seeing aftermath of that strike there. It was adjacent to the Canadian embassy on one side. So Iran has vowed to retaliate. The question is, of course, when and how. How, if it goes against intelligence or military targets. Military targets, it's not like the U.S. where you have U.S. military targets peppered around the region, where it could go, for instance, take aim at an air base in Syria or in Iraq. This would have to be, presumably, on Israeli territory, Peter, and if that happens, Israel has said that it will retaliate in kind, meaning it will retaliate against Iranian territory. And, of course, I don't have to tell you that that would mean
Takes place in Israel. Another real concern, of course, could be that American forces in that region, in Syria or in Iraq, become targets as well. Mark, I want to ask you, I was so struck by some of the notes you shared with our team. I know you've worked in the past, you have long experience working with Israelis. What goes into the decision-making by the Israelis when they conduct a strike like this on a consular building like that? Obviously, it's potentially escalatory, but you say they have a real calculation. What is that calculation?
That's right, Peter. You know, the Israeli...
There isn't. It goes back to this. This is plain as day. The moment Israel realized, once they realized that they killed an American and 3 British people, Canadian and Australian, you just pissed off Australia, United States, Canada, all of Europe. They're pulling their forces back. So Netanyahu realized, oh shit, right? He understood. He understood the moment the intel gets out. Like, check this out. Israel knew they had attacked the WCK, but I guarantee Israel thought that all the WCK members were just Palestinians. And it wasn't until after they killed them they realized, shit, Israel realized they probably just killed British veterans who were security members, killed an American who was American-Canadian, and killed an Australian. Once they realized, we just pissed off Australia, United States and Canada, and all of Europe, once they started pulling their forces back, realizing that Israel knew, once this intel and all this news gets out faster, they're losing the narrative. They're losing the narrative of their genocide, their fake war. They call it a war, but it's a fake war. The real thing is a genocide. They knew Biden's White House is going to respond. But for Israel, for Netanyahu to save his ass, he's going to throw away lives. He's going to throw away lives. So he goes ahead and attacks. Kills 13 Iranians in the consulate at the embassy in Syria. Like to prolong a war, to draw everything out. Israel's going to force Iran to attack them to draw the U.S. into a longer war. And he can use the excuse of war to keep his genocide going. And almost force his government to keep kind of supporting him as the war turns on. But like I said, the moment his genocide, his fake war ends, and international investigators can come in, then you'll see more crimes that have already been documented in real time, that he will ultimately lose more support of the Israeli people. So by keeping everyone dying around him, for Netanyahu, by keeping everyone dying and prolonging a war, he can stay in power. That's all he's doing. It goes back to this thing, right? I can explain it as simple as I can in terms of it's evil statesmanship. It's evil statesmanship. It's evil statesmanship. It's the governorship is dictatorship to basically store away lives to keep everything churning. Because check this out. He already knows it's hard as heck if a war is continuing with other countries. His genocide continues. If he's replaced, he understands that no one wants to take over the responsibility of all this shit and chaos. The shit and the chaos is a conflict of a war. Governments fighting, people fighting. The shit and the chaos. But the moment his war stops, the moment their genocide, their war, the moment Israel genocide stops, their fake fucking war stops, then it's much easier for regime change. It's international investigators come in, they see all his crimes, refer him to the ICJ, and the Israeli government basically hand over all your war criminals. We'll take them to the Hague in handcuffs. That's what Netanyahu's doing. So for everyone to understand, that's it. Anything else you see when MSNBC is doing was the Israeli strike on the Iranian consulate worth it? This is also kind of like PR for Israel. It's just PR for Israel. When you have a whole bunch of rockets fired from Lebanon into Israel, understand that these are rockets fired from southern Syria into northern Israel. So, anything
kind of cost-benefit calculations are very deliberate. You know, they will look at a target. In this case, it was Iranian officials.
I don't need them to quantify evil. So MSNBC, I don't need military experts to quantify Israel's evil. It's just PR for fascism. PR for war crimes. So
act for this. And so the Israelis go about this in a very deliberative manner. And in their mind, the targets that they struck were worth what is coming now, which is going to be Iranian retaliation. The big question, of course, as Hala noted, is where, when, how. One quick point.
Oh, side note, it is never worth it. Because all you did was just piss off Iran. They got their stated outcome. Netanyahu is willing to throw away Israeli lives to kill more Iranian civilians. Okay? Israel attacked the Iranian consulate next to the embassy in Syria, killing probably like one Iranian commander and some other Iranian government officials and civilians. Okay? So Netanyahu is willing to just kill more people to keep a prolonged war going, to draw the U.S. into a conflict in the region, so that no real investigation starts by his government to remove him from power. It's plain and simple. The dictator keeps the war going, keeps his fake war going, keeps his genocide going, or creates new wars so that he stays in power, so that no proper investigation can go underway when you have all these like kind of war powers happening. Just into the chaos, into the shit. People dying. Government's going ahead, people going ahead, missiles firing, military's moving. It's never worth it. Israel is just willing to kill more people to prolong a war in the region.
I would say that both
for a drone strike of some kind that may be able to sort of evade the Israeli defense effort more than other types of strikes would be able to. What are the concerns? What are the things that you think we should be concerned and worried about?
When he said we, what do you mean by we? You have this dude on MSNBC saying we. You're an American dude here in the United States. Why are you saying we when he's saying he's worried about Iran using drones to strike Israel targets?
Ask you about this and the fears as it relates to Iran. One that I keep hearing is the potential for a drone strike.
He said fear. No one's afraid of Iran. Why is he saying we and why is he saying fear? Now there is statements from both governments basically saying they're going to retaliate against each other. But that should be any kind of fear or any kind of quote we, from MSNBC caster.
Some kind that may be able to sort of evade the Israeli defense effort more than other types of strikes would be able to. What are the concerns? What are the things that you think we should be concerned and worried about?
He said we should be concerned or worried about. A newscaster reporter should actually essentially never say we, because he's talking about everyone. But he's not talking about everyone. It's more of his own concern or fear. It doesn't make any sense. Not in this sense. They're not telling the news program.
Returning to our breaking news story now, more than 50...
Oh, they're just doing PR for Israeli fascists.
Rockets have been launched from southern Lebanon towards the upper Galilee.
AKA southern Syria. Lebanon is a city. You also have in the region. I understand that Israel, it's not so much a country, but just like a giant city. They're a European colony. Like the Kurds, like the Kurdish people have like 3 small medium cities and 1 large city, but really the Kurds are just one group of people, northern Iraq. They have their own autonomous kind of region. They're trying to form their own nation. The Kurds really only have like 1 city. They have 1, group of peoples and persons spread out among smaller, isolated satellite kind of regions. Same thing with how the Kurds are set up, right? As their own people. They aren't officially recognized as a nation, but they should be. Southern Iran, northern Iraq. There's a region, and it's just like it's the Kurdish people. They have like a green flag with like white lettering and white symbols, but they're not recognized by any other country as a nation or state, but they should be. The Kurdish people have their own military, government, education. They're defending themselves against anyone that tries to hurt any kind of Kurdish people or that region. The Kurds are also great allies for the United States when we were fighting against ISIS and Al Qaeda and the Haqqani network, and fighting against Hezbollah, and fighting against other Iranian rebels too. And so, but you see, the same way how the Kurdish people are set up is the same way how Israel's set up. It's really just 1 city with a whole bunch of satellite kind of towns separated over a small area, but they're really a smaller population. They're only equivalent to like 1 city. Same thing with the Kurdish people. They have their own kind of nation. They have their own central unit, and they have the heck am I? Oh, strange. Quick chat. Today's 13th. Oh, man. Oh, this was Coachella was doing their thing.
Hey, it's Ruben Gallego. We just heard the news. Senator Sinema is now.
Nice. An opportunity maybe to send up, but I would like to be able to watch this, but you can't because it's HBO last week tonight. But I'll watch this later. John Oliver talks about how the U.S. addresses their carceral punishment system that they have. Oh,
international anchor and host of the Amanpour Hour. Please welcome to the program, Christian Amanpour. Hello. Hello. Hi. I wanted.
I'll do. I'll watch this later. This one. Oh, this is from Coachella. What are we doing? LCK playoffs. Doing the thing. Water Margolin streaming in Chengdu. Cool. What called they were just hopping on a drunk karaoke. None of this matters. PV's back. Vocal workout stuff. Marine training down in Southern California. Blueberry lemon cake? She sounds really good. I need AI glasses. Goddamn. Wait, what?
How do you guys know each other? Friends? Brother, sister?
No. We met on the plane. This was like 48 hours ago.
48 hours ago?
Yes. I saw her when I was gonna get on the plane.
I saw him too, and then I sat next to him. I was thinking about like talking to him, but I guess I was afraid, so I didn't.
I just didn't want to get rejected and then have to sit on the plane for 2 hours.
Wait, so you didn't talk to her all flight?
No.
Wow. There's just a sexual tension the whole time?
Attention, for sure.
Okay, sorry, I added the sexual in there. And then what happened?
When we got off the plane, I just turned around and asked her for her name.
What were you thinking?
I was happy. It was the last chance, right?
In the back of your mind, were you thinking, oh, this guy's just gonna walk away?
Yeah, he didn't.
How long are you in New York City for?
We were both supposed to leave today. Now we're both staying for the rest of the week.
How do you make sense of what has happened?
Fate.
Maybe. It feels like it was meant to happen.
Whatever happens, happens, and it just works.
What are you guys' names?
Terrence.
Jasmine.
Terrence, you're from?
Atlanta.
Where so?
How do you guys know each other? Friends? Brother, sister?
No. We met on the plane. This was like 48 hours ago.
48 hours ago?
Yes. I saw her when I was gonna get on the plane.
I saw him too, and then I sat next to him. I was thinking about like talking to him, but I guess I was afraid, so I didn't.
I just didn't want to get rejected and then have to sit on the plane for 2 hours.
Wait, so you didn't talk to her all flight?
No.
Wow. There's just a sexual tension the whole time?
Attention, for sure.
Okay, sorry, I added the sexual in there. And then what happened?
When we got off the plane, I just turned around and asked her for her name.
What were you thinking?
I was happy. It was the last chance, right?
In the back of your mind, were you thinking, oh, this guy's just gonna walk away?
Yeah, he didn't.
How long are you in New York City for?
We were both supposed to leave today. Now we're both staying for the rest of the week.
How do you make sense of what has happened?
Fate.
Maybe. It feels like it was meant to happen.
Whatever happens, happens, and it just works.
What are you guys' names?
Terrence.
Jasmine.
Terrence, you're from?
Atlanta.
Where so?
How do you guys know each other? Friends? Brother, sister?
No. We met on the plane. This was like 48 hours ago.
48 hours ago?
Yes. I saw her when I was gonna get on the plane.
I saw him too, and then I sat next to him. I was thinking about like talking to him, but I guess I was afraid, so I didn't.
I just didn't want to get rejected and then have to sit on the plane for 2 hours.
Wait, so you didn't talk to her all flight?
No.
Wow. There's just a sexual tension the whole time?
Attention, for sure.
Okay, sorry, I added the sexual in there. And then what happened?
When we got off the plane, I just turned around and asked her for her name.
What were you thinking?
I was happy. It was the last chance, right?
In the back of your mind, were you thinking, oh, this guy's just gonna walk away?
Yeah, he didn't.
How long are you in New York City for?
We were both supposed to leave today. Now we're both staying for the rest of the week.
How do you make sense of what has happened?
Fate.
Maybe. It feels like it was meant to happen.
Whatever happens, happens, and it just works.
What are you guys' names?
Terrence.
Jasmine.
Terrence, you're from?
Atlanta.
Where so?
How do you guys know each other? Friends? Brother, sister?
No. We met on the plane. This was like 48 hours ago.
48 hours ago?
Yes. I saw her when I was gonna get on the plane.
I saw him too, and then I sat next to him. I was thinking about like talking to him, but I guess I was afraid, so I didn't.
I just didn't want to get rejected and then have to sit on the plane for 2 hours.
Wait, so you didn't talk to her all flight?
No.
Wow. There's just a sexual tension the whole time?
Attention, for sure.
Okay, sorry, I added the sexual in there. And then what happened?
When we got off the plane, I just turned around and asked her for her name.
What were you thinking?
I was happy. It was the last chance, right?
In the back of your mind, were you thinking, oh, this guy's just gonna walk away?
Yeah, he didn't.
How long are you in New York City for?
We were both supposed to leave today. Now we're both staying for the rest of the week.
How do you make sense of what has happened?
Fate.
Might be. It feels like it was meant to happen.
Whatever happens, happens, and it just works.
What are you guys' names?
Terrence.
Jasmine.
Terrence, you're from
Atlanta.
Where so?
How do you guys know each other? Friends? Brother, sister?
No. We met on the plane. This was like 48 hours ago.
48 hours ago?
Yes. I saw her when I was gonna get on the plane.
I saw him too, and then I sat next to him. I was thinking about like talking to him, but I guess I was afraid, so I didn't.
I just didn't want to get rejected and then have to sit on the plane for 2 hours.
Wait, so you didn't talk to her all flight?
No.
Wow. There's just a sexual tension the whole time?
Attention, for sure.
Okay, sorry, I added the sexual in there. And then what happened?
When we got off the plane, I just turned around and asked her for her name.
What were you thinking?
I was happy. It was the last chance, right?
In the back of your mind, were you thinking, oh, this guy's just gonna walk away?
Yeah, he didn't.
How long are you in New York City for?
We were both supposed to leave today. Now we're both staying for the rest of the week.
How do you make sense of what has happened?
Fate.
Might be. It feels like it was meant to happen.
Whatever happens, happens, and it just works.
What are you guys' names?
Terrence.
Jasmine.
Terrence, you're from
Atlanta.
Where so?
How do you guys know each other? Friends? Brother, sister?
No. We met on the plane. This was like 48 hours ago.
48 hours ago?
Yes. I saw her when I was gonna get on the plane.
I saw him too, and then I sat next to him. I was thinking about like talking to him, but I guess I was afraid, so I didn't.
I just didn't want to get rejected and then have to sit on the plane for 2 hours.
Wait, so you didn't talk to her all flight?
No.
Wow. There's just a sexual tension the whole time?
Attention, for sure.
Okay, sorry, I added the sexual in there. And then what happened?
When we got off the plane, I just turned around and asked her for her name.
What were you thinking?
I was happy. It was the last chance, right?
In the back of your mind, were you thinking, oh, this guy's just gonna walk away?
Yeah, he didn't.
How long are you in New York City for?
We were both supposed to leave today. Now we're both staying for the rest of the week.
How do you make sense of what has happened?
Fate.
Might be. It feels like it was meant to happen.
Whatever happens, happens, and it just works.
What are you guys' names?
Terrence.
Jasmine.
Terrence, you're from
Atlanta.
Where so?
How do you guys know each other? Friends? Brother, sister?
No. We met on the plane. This was like 48 hours ago.
48 hours ago?
Yes. I saw her when I was gonna get on the plane.
I saw him too, and then I sat next to him. I was thinking about like talking to him, but I guess I was afraid, so I didn't.
I just didn't want to get rejected and then have to sit on the plane for 2 hours.
Wait, so you didn't talk to her all flight?
No.
Wow. There's just a sexual tension the whole time?
Attention, for sure.
Okay, sorry, I added the sexual in there. And then what happened?
When we got off the plane, I just turned around and asked her for her name.
What were you thinking?
I was happy. It was the last chance, right?
In the back of your mind, were you thinking, oh, this guy's just gonna walk away?
Yeah, he didn't.
How long are you in New York City for?
We were both supposed to leave today. Now we're both staying for the rest of the week.
How do you make sense of what has happened?
Fate.
Might be. It feels like it was meant to happen.
Whatever happens, happens, and it just works.
What are you guys' names?
Terrence.
Jasmine.
Terrence, you're from
Atlanta.
Where so?
How do you guys know each other? Friends? Brother, sister?
No. We met on the plane. This was like 48 hours ago.
48 hours ago?
Yes. I saw her when I was gonna get on the plane.
I saw him too, and then I sat next to him. I was thinking about like talking to him, but I guess I was afraid, so I didn't.
I just didn't want to get rejected and then have to sit on the plane for 2 hours.
Wait, so you didn't talk to her all flight?
No.
Wow. There's just a sexual tension the whole time?
Attention, for sure.
Okay, sorry, I added the sexual in there. And then what happened?
When we got off the plane, I just turned around and asked her for her name.
What were you thinking?
I was happy. It was the last chance, right?
In the back of your mind, were you thinking, oh, this guy's just gonna walk away?
Yeah, he didn't.
How long are you in New York City for?
We were both supposed to leave today. Now we're both staying for the rest of the week.
How do you make sense of what has happened?
Fate.
Might be. It feels like it was meant to happen.
Whatever happens, happens, and it just works.
What are you guys' names?
Terrence.
Jasmine.
Terrence, you're from
Atlanta.
Where so?
How do you guys know each other? Friends? Brother, sister?
No. We met on the plane. This was like 48 hours ago.
48 hours ago?
Yes. I saw her when I was gonna get on the plane.
I saw him too, and then I sat next to him. I was thinking about like talking to him, but I guess I was afraid, so I didn't.
I just didn't want to get rejected and then have to sit on the plane for 2 hours.
Wait, so you didn't talk to her all flight?
No.
Wow. There's just a sexual tension the whole time?
Attention, for sure.
Okay, sorry, I added the sexual in there. And then what happened?
When we got off the plane, I just turned around and asked her for her name.
What were you thinking?
I was happy. It was the last chance, right?
In the back of your mind, were you thinking, oh, this guy's just gonna walk away?
Yeah, he didn't.
How long are you in New York City for?
We were both supposed to leave today. Now we're both staying for the rest of the week.
How do you make sense of what has happened?
Fate.
It feels like it was meant to happen.
Whatever happens, happens, and it just works.
What are you guys' names?
Terrence.
Jasmine.
Terrence, you're from
Atlanta.
Where so?
How do you guys know each other? Friends? Brother, sister?
No. We met on the plane. This was like 48 hours ago.
48 hours ago?
Yes. I saw her when I was gonna get on the plane.
I saw him too, and then I sat next to him. I was thinking about like talking to him, but I guess I was afraid, so I didn't.
I just didn't want to get rejected and then have to sit on the plane for 2 hours.
Wait, so you didn't talk to her all flight?
No.
Wow. There's just a sexual tension the whole time?
Attention, for sure.
Okay, sorry, I added the sexual in there. And then what happened?
When we got off the plane, I just turned around and asked her for her name.
What were you thinking?
I was happy. It was the last chance, right?
In the back of your mind, were you thinking, oh, this guy's just gonna walk away?
Yeah, he didn't.
How long are you in New York City for?
We were both supposed to leave today. Now we're both staying for the rest of the week.
How do you make sense of what has happened?
Fate.
It feels like it was meant to happen.
Whatever happens, happens, and it just works.
What are you guys' names?
Terrence.
Jasmine.
Terrence, you're from
Atlanta.
Where so?
How do you guys know each other? Friends? Brother, sister?
No. We met on the plane. This was like 48 hours ago.
48 hours ago?
Yes. I saw her when I was gonna get on the plane.
I saw him too, and then I sat next to him. I was thinking about like talking to him, but I guess I was afraid, so I didn't.
I just didn't want to get rejected and then have to sit on the plane for 2 hours.
Wait, so you didn't talk to her all flight?
No.
Wow. There's just a sexual tension the whole time?
Attention, for sure.
Okay, sorry, I added the sexual in there. And then what happened?
When we got off the plane, I just turned around and asked her for her name.
What were you thinking?
I was happy. It was the last chance, right?
In the back of your mind, were you thinking, oh, this guy's just gonna walk away?
Yeah, he didn't.
How long are you in New York City for?
We were both supposed to leave today. Now we're both staying for the rest of the week.
How do you make sense of what has happened?
Fate.
It feels like it was meant to happen.
Whatever happens, happens, and it just works.
What are you guys' names?
Terrence.
Jasmine.
Terrence, you're from
Atlanta.
Where so?
How do you guys know each other? Friends? Brother, sister?
No. We met on the plane. This was like 48 hours ago.
48 hours ago?
Yes. I saw her when I was gonna get on the plane.
I saw him too, and then I sat next to him. I was thinking about like talking to him, but I guess I was afraid, so I didn't.
I just didn't want to get rejected and then have to sit on the plane for 2 hours.
Wait, so you didn't talk to her all flight?
No.
Wow. There's just a sexual tension the whole time?
Attention, for sure.
Okay, sorry, I added the sexual in there. And then what happened?
When we got off the plane, I just turned around and asked her for her name.
What were you thinking?
I was happy. It was the last chance, right?
In the back of your mind, were you thinking, oh, this guy's just gonna walk away?
Yeah, he didn't.
How long are you in New York City for?
We were both supposed to leave today. Now we're both staying for the rest of the week.
How do you make sense of what has happened?
Fate.
It feels like it was meant to happen.
Whatever happens, happens, and it just works.
What are you guys' names?
Terrence.
Jasmine.
Terrence, you're from
Atlanta.
Where so?
How do you guys know each other? Friends? Brother, sister?
No. We met on the plane. This was like 48 hours ago.
48 hours ago?
Yes. I saw her when I was gonna get on the plane.
I saw him too, and then I sat next to him. I was thinking about like talking to him, but I guess I was afraid, so I didn't.
I just didn't want to get rejected and then have to sit on the plane for 2 hours.
Wait, so you didn't talk to her all flight?
No.
Wow. There's just a sexual tension the whole time?
Attention, for sure.
Okay, sorry, I added the sexual in there. And then what happened?
When we got off the plane, I just turned around and asked her for her name.
What were you thinking?
I was happy. It was the last chance, right?
In the back of your mind, were you thinking, oh, this guy's just gonna walk away?
Yeah, he didn't.
How long are you in New York City for?
We were both supposed to leave today. Now we're both staying for the rest of the week.
How do you make sense of what has happened?
Fate.
It feels like it was meant to happen.
Whatever happens, happens, and it just works.
What are you guys' names?
Terrence.
Jasmine.
Terrence, you're from
Atlanta.
Where so?
How do you guys know each other? Friends? Brother, sister?
No. We met on the plane. This was like 48 hours ago.
48 hours ago?
Yes. I saw her when I was gonna get on the plane.
I saw him too, and then I sat next to him. I was thinking about like talking to him, but I guess I was afraid, so I didn't.
I just didn't want to get rejected and then have to sit on the plane for 2 hours.
Wait, so you didn't talk to her all flight?
No.
Wow. There's just a sexual tension the whole time?
Attention, for sure.
Okay, sorry, I added the sexual in there. And then what happened?
When we got off the plane, I just turned around and asked her for her name.
What were you thinking?
I was happy. It was the last chance, right?
In the back of your mind, were you thinking, oh, this guy's just gonna walk away?
Yeah, he didn't.
How long are you in New York City for?
We were both supposed to leave today. Now we're both staying for the rest of the week.
How do you make sense of what has happened?
Fate.
It feels like it was meant to happen.
Whatever happens, happens, and it just works.
What are you guys' names?
Terrence.
Jasmine.
Terrence, you're from
Atlanta.
Where so?
How do you guys know each other? Friends? Brother, sister?
No. We met on the plane. This was like 48 hours ago.
48 hours ago?
Yes. I saw her when I was gonna get on the plane.
I saw him too, and then I sat next to him. I was thinking about like talking to him, but I guess I was afraid, so I didn't.
I just didn't want to get rejected and then have to sit on the plane for 2 hours.
Wait, so you didn't talk to her all flight?
No.
Wow. There's just a sexual tension the whole time?
Attention, for sure.
Okay, sorry, I added the sexual in there. And then what happened?
When we got off the plane, I just turned around and asked her for her name.
What were you thinking?
I was happy. It was the last chance, right?
In the back of your mind, were you thinking, oh, this guy's just gonna walk away?
Yeah, he didn't.
How long are you in New York City for?
We were both supposed to leave today. Now we're both staying for the rest of the week.
How do you make sense of what has happened?
Fate.
It feels like it was meant to happen.
Whatever happens, happens, and it just works.
What are you guys' names?
Terrence.
Jasmine.
Terrence, you're from
Atlanta.
Where so?
How do you guys know each other? Friends? Brother, sister?
No. We met on the plane. This was like 48 hours ago.
48 hours ago?
Yes. I saw her when I was gonna get on the plane.
I saw him too, and then I sat next to him. I was thinking about like talking to him, but I guess I was afraid, so I didn't.
I just didn't want to get rejected and then have to sit on the plane for 2 hours.
Wait, so you didn't talk to her all flight?
No.
Wow. There's just a sexual tension the whole time?
Attention, for sure.
Okay, sorry, I added the sexual in there. And then what happened?
When we got off the plane, I just turned around and asked her for her name.
What were you thinking?
I was happy. It was the last chance, right?
In the back of your mind, were you thinking, oh, this guy's just gonna walk away?
Yeah, he didn't.
How long are you in New York City for?
We were both supposed to leave today. Now we're both staying for the rest of the week.
How do you make sense of what has happened?
Fate.
It feels like it was meant to happen.
Whatever happens, happens, and it just works.
What are you guys' names?
Terrence.
Jasmine.
Terrence, you're from
Atlanta.
Where so?
How do you guys know each other? Friends? Brother, sister?
No. We met on the plane. This was like 48 hours ago.
48 hours ago?
Yes. I saw her when I was gonna get on the plane.
I saw him too, and then I sat next to him. I was thinking about like talking to him, but I guess I was afraid, so I didn't.
I just didn't want to get rejected and then have to sit on the plane for 2 hours.
Wait, so you didn't talk to her all flight?
No.
Wow. There's just a sexual tension the whole time?
Attention, for sure.
Okay, sorry, I added the sexual in there. And then what happened?
When we got off the plane, I just turned around and asked her for her name.
What were you thinking?
I was happy. It was the last chance, right?
In the back of your mind, were you thinking, oh, this guy's just gonna walk away?
Yeah, he didn't.
How long are you in New York City for?
We were both supposed to leave today. Now we're both staying for the rest of the week.
How do you make sense of what has happened?
Fate.
It feels like it was meant to happen.
Whatever happens, happens, and it just works.
What are you guys' names?
Terrence.
Jasmine.
Terrence, you're from
Atlanta.
Where so?
How do you guys know each other? Friends? Brother, sister?
No. We met on the plane. This was like 48 hours ago.
48 hours ago?
Yes. I saw her when I was gonna get on the plane.
I saw him too, and then I sat next to him. I was thinking about like talking to him, but I guess I was afraid, so I didn't.
I just didn't want to get rejected and then have to sit on the plane for 2 hours.
Wait, so you didn't talk to her all flight?
No.
Wow. There's just a sexual tension the whole time?
Attention, for sure.
Okay, sorry, I added the sexual in there. And then what happened?
When we got off the plane, I just turned around and asked her for her name.
What were you thinking?
I was happy. It was the last chance, right?
In the back of your mind, were you thinking, oh, this guy's just gonna walk away?
Yeah, he didn't.
How long are you in New York City for?
We were both supposed to leave today. Now we're both staying for the rest of the week.
How do you make sense of what has happened?
Fate.
It feels like it was meant to happen.
Whatever happens, happens, and it just works.
What are you guys' names?
Terrence.
Jasmine.
Terrence, you're from
Atlanta.
Where so?
How do you guys know each other? Friends? Brother, sister?
No. We met on the plane. This was like 48 hours ago.
48 hours ago?
Yes. I saw her when I was gonna get on the plane.
I saw him too, and then I sat next to him. I was thinking about like talking to him, but I guess I was afraid, so I didn't.
I just didn't want to get rejected and then have to sit on the plane for 2 hours.
Wait, so you didn't talk to her all flight?
No.
Wow. There's just a sexual tension the whole time?
Attention, for sure.
Okay, sorry, I added the sexual in there. And then what happened?
When we got off the plane, I just turned around and asked her for her name.
What were you thinking?
I was happy. It was the last chance, right?
In the back of your mind, were you thinking, oh, this guy's just gonna walk away?
Yeah, he didn't.
How long are you in New York City for?
We We were both supposed to leave today. Now we're both staying for the rest of the week.
How do you make sense of what has happened?
Fate.
It feels like it was meant to happen.
Whatever happens, happens, and it just works.
What are you guys' names?
Terrence.
Jasmine.
Terrence, you're from
Atlanta.
Where so?
How do you guys know each other? Friends? Brother, sister?
No. We met on the plane. This was like 48 hours ago.
48 hours ago?
Yes. I saw her when I was gonna get on the plane.
I saw him too, and then I sat next to him. I was thinking about like talking to him, but I guess I was afraid, so I didn't.
I just didn't want to get rejected and then have to sit on the plane for 2 hours.
Wait, so you didn't talk to her all flight?
No.
Wow. There's just a sexual tension the whole time?
Attention, for sure.
Okay, sorry, I added the sexual in there. And then what happened?
When we got off the plane, I just turned around and asked her for her name.
What were you thinking?
I was happy. It was the last chance, right?
In the back of your mind, were you thinking, oh, this guy's just gonna walk away?
Yeah, he didn't.
How long are you in New York City for?
We were both supposed to leave today. Now we're both staying for the rest of the week.
How do you make sense of what has happened?
Fate.
It feels like it was meant to happen.
Whatever happens, happens, and it just works.
What are you guys' names?
Terrence.
Jasmine.
Terrence, you're from
Atlanta.
Where so?
How do you guys know each other? Friends? Brother, sister?
No. We met on the plane. This was like 48 hours ago.
48 hours ago?
Yes. I saw her when I was gonna get on the plane.
I saw him too, and then I sat next to him. I was thinking about like talking to him, but I guess I was afraid, so I didn't.
I just didn't want to get rejected and then have to sit on the plane for 2 hours.
Wait, so you didn't talk to her all flight?
No.
Wow. There's just a sexual tension the whole time?
Attention, for sure.
Okay, sorry, I added the sexual in there. And then what happened?
When we got off the plane, I just turned around and asked her for her name.
What were you thinking?
I was happy. It was the last chance, right?
In the back of your mind, were you thinking, oh, this guy's just gonna walk away?
Yeah, he didn't.
How long are you in New York City for?
We were both supposed to leave today. Now we're both staying for the rest of the week.
How do you make sense of what has happened?
Fate.
It feels like it was meant to happen.
Whatever happens, happens, and it just works.
What are you guys' names?
Terrence.
Jasmine.
Terrence, you're from
Atlanta.
Where so?
How do you guys know each other? Friends? Brother, sister?
No. We met on the plane. This was like 48 hours ago.
48 hours ago?
Yes. I saw her when I was gonna get on the plane.
I saw him too, and then I sat next to him. I was thinking about like talking to him, but I guess I was afraid, so I didn't.
I just didn't want to get rejected and then have to sit on the plane for 2 hours.
Wait, so you didn't talk to her all flight?
No.
Wow. There's just a sexual tension the whole time?
Attention, for sure.
Okay, sorry, I added the sexual in there. And then what happened?
When we got off the plane, I just turned around and asked her for her name.
What were you thinking?
I was happy. It was the last chance, right?
In the back of your mind, were you thinking, oh, this guy's just gonna walk away?
Yeah, he didn't.
How long are you in New York City for?
We were both supposed to leave today. Now we're both staying for the rest of the week.
How do you make sense of what has happened?
Fate.
It feels like it was meant to happen.
Whatever happens, happens, and it just works.
What are you guys' names?
Terrence.
Jasmine.
Terrence, you're from
Atlanta.
Where so?
How do you guys know each other? Friends? Brother, sister?
No. We met on the plane. This was like 48 hours ago.
48 hours ago?
Yes. I saw her when I was gonna get on the plane.
I saw him too, and then I sat next to him. I was thinking about like talking to him, but I guess I was afraid, so I didn't.
I just didn't want to get rejected and then have to sit on the plane for 2 hours.
Wait, so you didn't talk to her all flight?
No.
Wow. There's just a sexual tension the whole time?
Attention, for sure.
Okay, sorry, I added the sexual in there. And then what happened?
When we got off the plane, I just turned around and asked her for her name.
What were you thinking?
I was happy. It was the last chance, right?
In the back of your mind, were you thinking, oh, this guy's just gonna walk away?
Yeah, he didn't.
How long are you in New York City for?
We were both supposed to leave today. Now we're both staying for the rest of the week.
How do you make sense of what has happened?
Fate.
It feels like it was meant to happen.
Whatever happens, happens, and it just works.
What are you guys' names?
Terrence.
Jasmine.
Terrence, you're from
Atlanta.
Where so?
How do you guys know each other? Friends? Brother, sister?
No. We met on the plane. This was like 48 hours ago.
48 hours ago?
Yes. I saw her when I was gonna get on the plane.
I saw him too, and then I sat next to him. I was thinking about like talking to him, but I guess I was afraid, so I didn't.
I just didn't want to get rejected and then have to sit on the plane for 2 hours.
Wait, so you didn't talk to her all flight?
No.
Wow. There's just a sexual tension the whole time?
Attention, for sure.
Okay, sorry, I added the sexual in there. And then what happened?
When we got off the plane, I just turned around and asked her for her name.
What were you thinking?
I was happy. It was the last chance, right?
In the back of your mind, were you thinking, oh, this guy's just gonna walk away?
Yeah, he didn't.
How long are you in New York City for?
We were both supposed to leave today. Now we're both staying for the rest of the week.
How do you make sense of what has happened?
Fate.
It feels like it was meant to happen.
Whatever happens, happens, and it just works.
What are you guys' names?
Terrence.
Jasmine.
Terrence, you're from
Atlanta.
Where so?
How do you guys know each other? Friends? Brother, sister?
No. We met on the plane. This was like 48 hours ago.
48 hours ago?
Yes. I saw her when I was gonna get on the plane.
I saw him too, and then I sat next to him. I was thinking about like talking to him, but I guess I was afraid, so I didn't.
I just didn't want to get rejected and then have to sit on the plane for 2 hours.
Wait, so you didn't talk to her all flight?
No.
Wow. There's just a sexual tension the whole time?
Attention, for sure.
Okay, sorry, I added the sexual in there. And then what happened?
When we got off the plane, I just turned around and asked her for her name.
What were you thinking?
I was happy. It was the last chance, right?
In the back of your mind, were you thinking, oh, this guy's just gonna walk away?
Yeah, he didn't.
How long are you in New York City for?
We were both supposed to leave today. Now we're both staying for the rest of the week.
How do you make sense of what has happened?
Fate.
It feels like it was meant to happen.
Whatever happens, happens, and it just works.
What are you guys' names?
Terrence.
Jasmine.
Terrence, you're from
Atlanta.
Where so?
How do you guys know each other? Friends? Brother, sister?
No. We met on the plane. This was like 48 hours ago.
48 hours ago?
Yes. I saw her when I was gonna get on the plane.
I saw him too, and then I sat next to him. I was thinking about like talking to him, but I guess I was afraid, so I didn't.
I just didn't want to get rejected and then have to sit on the plane for 2 hours.
Wait, so you didn't talk to her all flight?
No.
Wow. There's just a sexual tension the whole time?
Attention, for sure.
Okay, sorry, I added the sexual in there. And then what happened?
When we got off the plane, I just turned around and asked her for her name.
What were you thinking?
I was happy. It was the last chance, right?
In the back of your mind, were you thinking, oh, this guy's just gonna walk away?
Yeah, he didn't.
How long are you in New York City for?
We were both supposed to leave today. Now we're both staying for the rest of the week.
How do you make sense of what has happened?
Fate.
It feels like it was meant to happen.
Whatever happens, happens, and it just works.
What are you guys' names?
Terrence.
Jasmine.
Terrence, you're from
Atlanta.
Where so?
How do you guys know each other? Friends? Brother, sister?
No. We met on the plane. This was like 48 hours ago.
48 hours ago?
Yes. I saw her when I was gonna get on the plane.
I saw him too, and then I sat next to him. I was thinking about like talking to him, but I guess I was afraid, so I didn't.
I just didn't want to get rejected and then have to sit on the plane for 2 hours.
Wait, so you didn't talk to her all flight?
No.
Wow. There's just a sexual tension the whole time?
Attention, for sure.
Okay, sorry, I added the sexual in there. And then what happened?
When we got off the plane, I just turned around and asked her for her name.
What were you thinking?
I was happy. It was the last chance, right?
In the back of your mind, were you thinking, oh, this guy's just gonna walk away?
Yeah, he didn't.
How long are you in New York City for?
We were both supposed to leave today. Now we're both staying for the rest of the week.
How do you make sense of what has happened?
Fate.
It feels like it was meant to happen.
Whatever happens, happens, and it just works.
What are you guys' names?
Terrence.
Jasmine.
Terrence, you're from
Atlanta.
Where so?
How do you guys know each other? Friends? Brother, sister?
No. We met on the plane. This was like 48 hours ago.
48 hours ago?
Yes. I saw her when I was gonna get on the plane.
I saw him too, and then I sat next to him. I was thinking about like talking to him, but I guess I was afraid, so I didn't.
I just didn't want to get rejected and then have to sit on the plane for 2 hours.
Wait, so you didn't talk to her all flight?
No.
Wow. There's just a sexual tension the whole time?
Attention, for sure.
Okay, sorry, I added the sexual in there. And then what happened?
When we got off the plane, I just turned around and asked her for her name.
What were you thinking?
I was happy. It was the last chance, right?
In the back of your mind, were you thinking, oh, this guy's just gonna walk away?
Yeah, he didn't.
How long are you in New York City for?
We were both supposed to leave today. Now we're both staying for the rest of the week.
How do you make sense of what has happened?
Fate.
It feels like it was meant to happen.
Whatever happens, happens, and it just works.
What are you guys' names?
Terrence.
Jasmine.
Terrence, you're from
Atlanta.
Where so?
How do you guys know each other? Friends? Brother, sister?
No. We met on the plane. This was like 48 hours ago.
48 hours ago?
Yes. I saw her when I was gonna get on the plane.
I saw him too, and then I sat next to him. I was thinking about like talking to him, but I guess I was afraid, so I didn't.
I just didn't want to get rejected and then have to sit on the plane for 2 hours.
Wait, so you didn't talk to her all flight?
No.
Wow. There's just a sexual tension the whole time?
Attention, for sure.
Okay, sorry, I added the sexual in there. And then what happened?
When we got off the plane, I just turned around and asked her for her name.
What were you thinking?
I was happy. It was the last chance, right?
In the back of your mind, were you thinking, oh, this guy's just gonna walk away?
Yeah, he didn't.
How long are you in New York City for?
We We were both supposed to leave today. Now we're both staying for the rest of the week.
How do you make sense of what has happened?
Fate.
Might be. It feels like it was meant to happen.
Whatever happens, happens, and it just works.
What are you guys' names?
Terrence.
Jasmine.
Terrence, you're from
Atlanta.
Where so?
How do you guys know each other? Friends? Brother, sister?
No. We met on the plane. This was like 48 hours ago.
48 hours ago?
Yes.
I saw her when I was gonna get on the plane.
I saw him too, and then I sat next to him. I was thinking about like talking to him, but I guess I was afraid, so I didn't.
I just didn't want to get rejected and then have to sit on the plane for 2 hours.
Wait, so you didn't talk to her all flight?
No.
Wow. There's just a sexual tension the whole time?
Attention, for sure.
Okay, sorry, I added the sexual in there. And then what happened?
When we got off the plane, I just turned around and asked her for her name.
What were you thinking?
I was happy. It was the last chance, right?
In the back of your mind, were you thinking, oh, this guy's just gonna walk away?
Yeah, he didn't.
How long are you in New York City for?
We were both supposed to leave today. Now we're both staying for the rest of the week.
How do you make sense of what has happened?
Fate.
Might be. It feels like it was meant to happen.
Whatever happens, happens, and it just works.
What are you guys' names?
Terrence.
Jasmine.
Terrence, you're from
Atlanta.
Where so?
How do you guys know each other? Friends? Brother, sister?
No. We met on the plane. This was like 48 hours ago.
48 hours ago?
Yes.
I saw her when I was gonna get on the plane.
I saw him too, and then I sat next to him. I was thinking about like talking to him, but I guess I was afraid, so I didn't.
I just didn't want to get rejected and then have to sit on the plane for 2 hours.
Wait, so you didn't talk to her all flight?
No.
Wow. There's just a sexual tension the whole time?
Attention, for sure.
Okay, sorry, I added the sexual in there. And then what happened?
When we got off the plane, I just turned around and asked her for her name.
What were you thinking?
I was happy. It was the last chance, right?
In the back of your mind, were you thinking, oh, this guy's just gonna walk away?
Yeah, he didn't.
How long are you in New York City for?
We were both supposed to leave today. Now we're both staying for the rest of the week.
How do you make sense of what has happened?
Fate.
Might be. It feels like it was meant to happen.
Whatever happens, happens, and it just works.
What are you guys' names?
Terrence.
Jasmine.
Terrence, you're from
Atlanta.
Where so?
How do you guys know each other? Friends? Brother, sister?
No. We met on the plane. This was like 48 hours ago.
48 hours ago?
Yes.
I saw her when I was gonna get on the plane.
I saw him too, and then I sat next to him. I was thinking about like talking to him, but I guess I was afraid, so I didn't.
I just didn't want to get rejected and then have to sit on the plane for 2 hours.
Wait, so you didn't talk to her all flight?
No.
Wow. There's just a sexual tension the whole time?
Attention, for sure.
Okay, sorry, I added the sexual in there. And then what happened?
When we got off the plane, I just turned around and asked her for her name.
What were you thinking?
I was happy. It was the last chance, right?
In the back of your mind, were you thinking, oh, this guy's just gonna walk away?
Yeah, he didn't.
How long are you in New York City for?
We were both supposed to leave today. Now we're both staying for the rest of the week.
How do you make sense of what has happened?
Fate.
Might be. It feels like it was meant to happen.
Whatever happens, happens, and it just works.
What are you guys' names?
Terrence.
Jasmine.
Terrence, you're from
Atlanta.
Where so?
How do you guys know each other? Friends? Brother, sister?
No. We met on the plane. This was like 48 hours ago.
48 hours ago?
Yes.
I saw her when I was gonna get on the plane.
I saw him too, and then I sat next to him. I was thinking about like talking to him, but I guess I was afraid, so I didn't.
I just didn't want to get rejected and then have to sit on the plane for 2 hours.
Wait, so you didn't talk to her all flight?
Oh, it's just playing the same game.
Wow. There's just
Into, of course, practice singing is a vocal workout. MTV stuff. Just about to. The older song Jolene has sung. Oh, not sure. Years long. I never looked at. I didn't realize that this cover to LP. Provocative. She's always been
The CVS Epic Beauty Sale.
Poster. It's 20 songs. Listen to this. Okay. Oh. Down goes Faker. Oh my god, 26 minutes in the game. Oh my god, down goes Faker. Gotta get some water really quick. Oh no, I turned back in. Oh no, down goes. Okay, goal lead for one. T1. T1 is trying to finish the game and the series. Losers bracket. Oh. Wait, hold up. Lizzie is live.
My ex. Give me another chance, chat. Okay? I'll do better this time. Okay, wow. Sorry, my life. Line up ex. Has any of your exes ever tried to get back with you? Any of Yeah? T-Rabbit? Yeah, nope. I'm doing the peach one tomorrow. Wait, what peach one? The peach cobbler? Are you trying my recipe out? Wait, that's cool. Pause. Has anyone actually tried any of the recipes that I've posted? Wait, yeah? That makes me happy. Good luck. Have fun. Wait, that actually makes me happy. I'm gonna try yours. Oh, also, expendable keynote. Don't mix all of the granola into the dough. I need you to put the half of the granola on top of the cobbler, okay? Remember that? Remember that. Just letting you know. Yeah, she's developing recipes, and so you guys are trying it. One is a good amount, okay? One is a lot. I'm even surprised any of you are interested in the recipes that I fucking figure out. How big gotta get? Wait, what? Did one of your exes try to get back with you? This is a sad one. So I had an ex when I was in school. Healthiest relationship. Broke up with him because I was too young, didn't know what I wanted to do. He was very sure of me. During the breakup, it was like amicable, but he was like, in 5 years, I'm gonna propose to you. And I was like, huh, that's scary. I'm out. I'm just like, how? That's terrifying. I'm out. Hi, Prince. How are you doing today? And that ex in particular tried to get back with me after a relationship. That was messy. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Is this Oreo proposal guy? No. Not him. What part of Oreo proposal guys sounds like a healthy, I'm having a moment of clarity right now where I think I'm into Red Sox. The moment you scream green flag, I'm just like, ew. I'm just like, maybe not. Oh my god. I think that would be fun to do Chinese recipe every other week. That would be fun. Makes sense. I don't know. That's what my ex said. I always go for people who need fixing. I'm like, I can fix you. You need some work, and I'm here for it. Ugh, God.
Okay.
That's bad. We do that. Wait, what? You fix yourself first? No. You know what? Oh god, I have to tell you the story of D. Hold on, let me separate the... That was a big snot. Why is it that every time I separate egg yolks and egg whites, my thought is like, ooh, snot. Yummy snot. Snot. Oop.
Oh, let's do it. What does it change? CK lower bracket? Oh, because T1 lost actually before. You're trying to get revenge. Oh, Genji already went on. Finals. Genji won. Actually lost game 1. They're running a calling. Show the bans. It's game 2 ban calling? It was. Lost against calling, then they banned the calling. The bans are the strong champions. Like Senna Maokai, Vi, Rek'Sai, Callista, Thresh, Alistair, Cassante, Akali, Rel. It's so crazy. These are champions that I've been talking about over the past like 4 months. Yeah, Aurelion Sol is like secret sauce. Talia strong into Aurelion Sol. The fighter and the tank kind of counter matter. Fighters kind of tanks / fighters. Fighters. you just don't want Vi or Jax, you know, alting using the R button and leaping over walls or dashing through walls and all that, you know, to beat up your characters. I think Jace can work. I think Lulu can work, but Ushinami's just stronger. It's just better combo. Azir is a good safety net. Kaisa, Nahlas, Zeri, Nahlas, yeah, you see that. And they won with Zeri too, and they took Zeri in the third game. Wow. Zika, Chovy. And then Rumble, yeah. Kazante, yeah. You know, late game safety net, early game. Do you see the positioning? You know, survive with the tank, secure, save your late game, get late game. Jax can defensively help bot lane or aggressively help top lane. You play through top lane, you push Rumble ahead, and Rumble can then help mid. And then you guys can 3v1 mid, boom, mid, enemy mid, or they can 2v1 top. Or he can always be reactive defensive as a jungler and be the safety net to Azir and bot lane. And so since these are late game, we have 2 early game. So it's a good composition. Same thing here. You're gonna have it's like early game, late game, early game. Won the early game, dominated. Good shit. And they're playing right now. 14. Oh, looks like T1 is about to close out this game. The carries actually cannot have 1 assist each. This means there was bad what's it called? It's like bad team fighting, not a lot of playmaking, and then over on T1 side, they have way more assists. It's better team fighting. It's that simple. You know, 7 assists in the jungler, 6 assists in the mid laner, 6 assists in the mid laner, 11 assists support, just better team fighting. T1 would have to mess up some sort of team fight. If Zika can Shrima shuffle 2 of the 5 members on T1, if Zika Shrima shuffles Varus, essentially, they could focus fire. They could flash ult from Rail, and Nocturne can follow up onto Varus. Then all of T1 falls apart, pretty much. But I wonder if HLE understand their win condition. So HLE's win condition is the Nocturne ult, the Rail flash ult, even with the... And then what Zeke could do is actually push the opponent away. Nocturne, ult from Peanut, the light Rail ult, and then Zeke can actually push the opponents away. They can really secure the kill onto Gumayusi. So HLE's win con is they have to stop Gum. For T1, their win condition, they would want to kill Azir. So, but they don't have any of the tools to do that. Oh, this is Soul Point? Oh, take him out. You have to take him out. Oh, stop the enemy jungler. What are they doing? Wait, what is HLE doing? What is HLE doing? They didn't even try. You have to fight now. You have to fight now. Oh my. Oh, game over. GG. What were they doing? Game over. What were they doing? Oh. Using the ghost top. But, GG. But that was really weird because the whole team actually didn't fight for the dragon, even though it was Soul Dragon. Yeah, it was really strange. It was like, this is Soul Dragon, right? You're getting there 40 minutes. And then actually like didn't fight for the dragon. And then they let them take the dragon, and then I don't know, they didn't reset, they didn't recall, right? They stayed on the map and like tried to chase T1, and then T1 did a what we call like a bait gank, or what's the terminology for it again? Does it better? nomenclature for what the technique that T1 just did. Give me 1 sec. I have it pinned. It's a roam bait. Yeah, it's a roam bait. So, skill number 11, roam baiting, is you're just baiting your opponent to chase you, and then you counter their roam. So, like, T1 started backing off right after they took the dragon. Then H-Lee decides to, like, chase T1. But from T1's perspective, they were just roam baiting H-Lee. And then they counterattacked him. The weird part is the moment the enemy took the dragon, you should just recall. Spend the gold you need to spend, get back on the map, apply pressure. So, they like didn't fight for the dragon. The weird part is that they just didn't fight with the dragon. I don't think I can go back far enough time. I probably have to. Didn't make any sense. Well, further back in time, didn't make any sense. The dragon was low. The jungle was in the pit. T1, their whole team was out of the dragon pit. There was only one jungler owner on Jinzhou next to Loha Dragon, and all of HLE was like too far away. It was like the dragon owner, there's the dragon pit, and then all of HLE, and then all of T1. So it just didn't make any sense. HLE should have focus fired, 5v1 owner, stopped them, and then took the dragon. That was just like the weird part. That part just doesn't make any sense. It just looks really strange. It looks... What's the word I'm thinking of? It was already like pre-planned. Look like. I wonder if they'll show the fight at Dragon Pit. Alright. Like, both players understand, both teams understand it's the outcome that they need to achieve. So, let me see if they show the Dragon Pit fight. It just looks really strange. HLE should have 5v1 killed owner and then took the dragon, but they like didn't. Let's go back in time. I'll just go back to that fight because I wonder if they're even gonna show the high. Okay, here's the dragon fight. Watch owner in the dragon pit. And what were they doing? It was literally just owner in the dragon pit. Oh, right here. Here's the fight. It doesn't make any sense. This doesn't make any sense. Watch. Why are we not in the dragon? This is not it. Oh. This it? Here's... No, this is not it. Oh, that's wrong. Oh, my bad. Alright, now I'm too far back in time because we're not at the Fort Dragon yet. I just gotta look up. Too far back in time. It's this fight right here. This whole fight doesn't make any sense, so watch this.
Win one team fight and they end the game.
Watch this fight. All of HLE should be trying to kill owner on Jinzhou. And just watch how this plays out. Rel Rel has alt, right? Rel should be posturing to get ready to stun and stop. Just flash, ignite, alt. You should be posturing. The light should be posturing to stop this player. Azir has his ult ready to push Peanut out of the pit. Rel has ult. Peanut has ult. Dorian has ult. Zeke has ult. They all have their ults. Zeke on Azir should be ready to push Owner on Jhin out of the pit, out of the Dragon Pit. The light could also stun him and stop him. Hell, Zeke could push him out of the pit, and even if Owner wanted to go back, the light on Rel could just stop him. Peanut has his ult to make everyone go blind, right? Look at the team members. Zeri can sit in the back of the pit. Zeri can sit in the back of the pit because she can wall right out. Azir can stay in the pit too. Because he could. Rel and Azir can hop over walls. Dorian on Recant can tunnel over walls with her. But what are they doing? Dragon's getting low in health. They're not focus firing on Owner. Like, what are they doing? Okay, and then look at this part. They're out of the Dragon Pit. Already failed. So recall. Right? Recall. 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 You should be recalling. The reason you want to recall? So you can spend whatever gold you currently have on you and push these waves out as quick as you can. It's the only way to get the top wave. It's the only way to get back in it. So like, and then this team stops. And then what is actually doing? Trying to chase? Like, what are you doing? They have the buff, right? Like, what are you doing? Zeri has half her mana. Nina has half his health. Oh, were they running to go contest Baron? Doesn't make any sense, you're too low. Peanut kind of pauses. It looks really sus. It looks really sus. Really suspicious. Peanut paused. Why is Peanut standing still? Looks really suspicious. And then he moves. Even just that behavior in the pro match makes it look like Peanut knew that this was already going to happen. Like it was scripted. It was already an outcome to the game. That's what it looks like. How they were in the Dragon Pit was the first signs of H lane. And the messed up part is that Peanut, I think, used to be on T1. But it also looks like he's like throwing the match. Peanut walks, stands still, lets his teammate walk past him, and his teammate gets hooked. Like he knew it was going to happen. And you're the jungler that wasn't like what? And like Delight and Zika and Peanut could have stopped Owner. And then of course this all falls apart, right? Like from this point, you know, this all falls apart. But just all that looks really suspicious. Oh, all of the reds, all the flag, you know, all of the red flags are going off in terms of for the LCK, like really strange fighting. Hmm. Sorry.
It gives me the poops. It gives me the shits. It's okay. It's okay. Can't find anywhere that does good burritos. Oh, okay, I give up.
Sorry, just Instagram. The cousin,
It will
family,
do that.
friends.
It gives everyone the poops, but we can't. But we don't hate the
Good news
food
and bad news.
beforehand.
Oh.
Yeah.
Some good news in your eyes, some
Taco Bell
bad news in your
practically
eyes.
knows
More gold news.
for the shits
So.
people get because of it. I assumed happiness started with an H, but I believe it actually starts with U. Red Void? You know what? Actually, I'm starved of affection. Come here. Give me that shit. You wanna give it like the Maha last. Bye haters, you're all hot. I love you. Bye. Bye Owen. Yes. Hi Domo. Hello. God, it's taking forever to heat up. Okay. Okay. Just pick a place, Liz. It's not gonna hurt you. Unless it's not gonna hurt you to just have it. Excuse me.
What is that?
It's not. It really won't. What the fuck was that? The fuck was that, Liz? You might like this new place. I just squeaked. I'm a squeaky gal, don't come for me. I can't decide. Yes, you can. Lizzie, you can. Pick a food, you're fine. Huh? Thanks for the follow, cows. Is Bunny here? Hi, Bunny, I love you. Hi, Ark. Finally, a woman in her Actually, no, don't do that. Damn it. I'm sorry. My bad. Okay, I take it back. Sorry. Come back. Come back. Come back. Come back. Let me lure him in and then... He got anyway. GG's. Hi. Well, hi, Jeff. How are you? ASMR time? What would you like? In her place, our hearts. Too late, you fucked it up as usual. I'm sorry! A master thief, because you stole my heart across 50 kilometers through my screen. Say less. Like, actually, don't say anything. That's what I mean when I say less. When I say less, don't talk. That's the least you can do. No, just give me an ada. Okay. Ow, 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 ow. Ada. There you go. Sound clips. Let's go. Walking, talking soundboard. Quit spamming and it's a thief, not thief. Murloc edition. Whoa. Oh, that's pretty decent Murloc. Whoa. God. That was pretty close. I'm lost. That kind of sounds like Stitch. That was an attempt. That was something. I tried. Hold on. Let me order food. Oh.
Back there.
Hold on. Okay. Sounding like Gollum. I have a demon inside me. Holy fuck.
Where's that?
That deserves a banca. Even I was terrified. I scared myself there. Who was she? What the fuck was that? Hello? That was scary.
Nation.
Where did that come from? It's very... beyond demon. I'm not scary, chat. I don't know where that came from. I don't know who she was.
Nonsense on.
She's not me. I'm not scary. That came out of nowhere. Can someone clip that so I can watch it, rewatch it later? I want to see. I want to see how good that was. On it. It's not left-handed salute. Okay, I have to pick up the food at some point. Because I got it for pickup. Because it's close by, kinda. So I'll be gone for longer. Thank you for the posture check and hydrate, Karkot. Last stream. Yeah, this is my last stream. I'm retiring. I wish. I wish I had money to just quit stream. I fucking wish, bro. I'm gonna keep an eye on the milk. Actually, no, I'm not. I'm gonna lower the temperature and then we're gonna prep the butter. The butter! Butter. Hey, butter, butter. Hey, butter, butter, swing. This is frozen butter. That was really hard. I nearly cut my finger off. Ooh, this is like frozen. Are we only money for her? No. Wait, what? What? No. Wait, that doesn't make sense. Just because I earn from streaming doesn't mean that I treat. That doesn't make sense. Walk me through your thought process. I need to understand. Can the milk just warm? No. Be careful, Liz. This is what happened last time. This is how you burnt the milk. Actually... Come on. Can you please just warm up already? Whoops. Don't do that. That's dangerous. Just gonna wait. So, wait, you're telling me all streamers aren't rich as fuck?
Yes.
Hi, Zavo. I wish. Kind of. Oh,
I should.
story time.
Zoning.
Last night while I was streaming with Ank, so every time I play a game, CJ, thanks for the follow. Every time I play a game and Ank is there in call, I don't hear anything. I don't see chat. I don't hear Ank. It's like radio silence. So, I don't like the silence because I don't like being alone with my thoughts. Anyone else? Just me? Good. And Enk was like, and I started singing to just like self-soothe. I didn't know Enk was singing along. He was singing along. We had a duet. I didn't know. Hi, Amp. It's really cute. He sang along. It was adorable. I was fully expecting the Italians to be like, why is she singing? I was fully expecting them to roast my singing.
Bingo.
Wait, hold on. Hotter. He even improvised some lyrics on the spot, saying your knight was about to die. Hi, Vids. Yeah, he did. I saw that. My favorite moment was when it was just, I just needed to check the king, and I fucked it up by moving my queen. and his bishop just takes my queen, and I'm just there like, I'm just like, jump scare. It is scary. Chess is scary. Come on. I don't have the patience. Thanks for the hydrate ice. Chat. In 10 minutes, my food is about to be ready. So would you be okay with me leaving you with a VOD? Can I leave you with a VOD to watch instead of clips? Which VOD do you want to watch? Which VOD would you like to watch? Yes? Oh, okay. It's hot now. It's perfect. Okay. That's hot. I'm just gonna slowly incorporate it. I'm too scared to make scrambled eggs again. Sweet scrambled eggs. Thanks for the follow, Ron. Speeders. Speeders chat. gotta do is move it back into the pot. Dude, I just made it harder for myself by putting it in a... whatever. I just gave myself... I say that I just made it harder for myself because I just gave myself more dishes to wash. That's all. It's not really harder. It's just like... It's... I don't like having more dishes to wash. Okay. That's supposed to thicken up. You know what? I feel like I should have just had food delivered.
More sad stories. Sorry, not thinking of the food. Just Instagram. Just much more police brutality. This is a older man. He's 68 years old. Just a white hair, Marine veteran. Cops had killed him. It's an unarmed guy. Good. More police brutality. What's he doing?
In 2 weeks. To a point that I'm just like not spending money on things. I'm just like, an hour break incoming. Lizzie in chat. Hi, Salty. What time is it? We have 2 minutes. Okay. I'm not gonna pick up food until after this. After this thickens up. I need this to be thick. It's still runny. Thick? Yeah. Thick with 2 C's. Come on. Hold on. I'm gonna take this out for a bit because I want to listen. Hi, Savior. Wait, what? I was out protesting. Healy? Okay, I'm not gonna leave until the cream is ready because I feel like it's a crucial point in the baking process that I need to concentrate on that. I just want to change the music, that's all. Just want to listen to Hosier.
I understand.
No. I need to get food. Orphan cookies, do you get baked now? You can get baked. I'll pass. Why isn't it thickening up? Stop. Patience. Oh, I feel it. Okay.
What?
Alright.
Huh? What's happening? Oh.
She's getting thicker. I need to make sure it doesn't burn at the bottom. It's scary. No one wants a burnt bottom. Come on. God damn it. Come on, Liz. Don't give up. It's already thickening up. You're so close. That sounds silly. Oh my god. Oh. It's like the right consistency. It just needs a bit more stirring and time. Give me a sec. Oh, okay, hold on.
Oh wait, song might be copyrighted. Every now and then. Do some cool stuff on it. And tea.